Chapter 3201. In the blink of an eye. Su Fang made the most rational and helpless decision. Don't save him. Su Daozu Xian needed 9 lifetimes to cultivate after reincarnating. In his previous life, he had died before he could rise. This was his fate. If Su Fang acted now, he could easily save him, and help him become a Dao Saint or even Daozu. This would affect Shi Xian Daozu's 9 lifetimes of reincarnation, and he would not be able to reach the peak of Daozu. However, seeing his loved one die in front of him, while Su Fang's heart was as calm as the world, he still felt great pain. At the same time, Su Fang felt great helplessness. Only now did he realize that even if he stood at the peak, he could not do as he pleased. He had to make painful choices. Suddenly, Su Fang's brow furrowed. He sent his consciousness over. Shermu, you must not act. So it was Mother Daozu. She also saw Chief Elder of Punishment wanting to kill Luo Qing and wanted to act to suppress Chief Elder of Punishment. Humph! Daofather Dark Mother let out a cold snort, then disappeared without a trace. She actually flew into the air and left Stalwart Star City. With Mother Daozu's strength, how could she not know the consequences of acting? Su Fang. But when she saw this, she could not control herself. Su Fang stopped her and she had to leave. It is this seat's honor to be able to kill the number 1 genius of the human race. Pity it is not Su Fang. Luo Qing, die. Chief Elder of Punishment cast a lightning spell and killed Luo Qing. Luo Qing turned to dust and disappeared. Luo Qing no longer existed in the world. Shi Xian Daozu also finished this lifetime of reincarnation. Su Fang, Chief Elder of Punishment, was very smug. In the next moment, a sharp and murderous intent descended and covered him. Chief Elder of Punishment seemed to fall into an ice cave. His Dao heart trembled, his mind started to collapse, and his body trembled. A powerful Daozu and a powerful Daozu, who is it? Chief Elder of Punishment was shocked. Su Fang's figure slowly appeared in front of the first Elder of Punishment. Su Fang? Why are you here? The great Elder of Punishment was surprised, and his heart sank into a bottomless abyss. Although I can't stop you from killing people, I can kill you. At this moment, he was completely dominated by the evil corpse, like a god of death from hell. The great Elder of Punishment revealed a look of realization. So you were hiding in the dark. When you saw that I was going to kill that human genius, you didn't save him. So you wanted to use me to get rid of that arrogant Luo Qing. Who would have thought that Su Fang would be such a despicable person? Su Fang said coldly, measuring the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure. What right do you have to live in this world? Don't worry, I won't let you die quickly. I will devour your life, strip your soul, and let your soul be burned and tortured in the longevity lamp for eternity. Su Fang, you are only at the peak of Dao Saint now. You are at the same level as me. If you want to kill me, how can I let you do as you wish? The great Elder of Punishment let out a thunderous roar, and immediately began to burn his mind. He planned to fight Su Fang to the death. In front of me, you are just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. You can't even die, let alone escape. Su Fang sneered indifferently. Ning, the shadow of a bronze oil lamp appeared in the great Elder of Punishment's eyes. As the flame flickered, the great Elder of Punishment's soul origin began to be stripped from his body uncontrollably. Longevity lamp? The great Elder of Punishment was terrified. When Su Fang was still a Dao Saint, he could injure Daozu by activating the longevity lamp. Now that he was only 1 step away from Daozu, how powerful would the longevity lamp be? The person who killed Luo Qing is Su Fang. The great Elder of Punishment gave up resisting, but suddenly opened his mouth and let out a thunderous roar. The entire Stalwart Star City could hear his voice. This shameless person wanted to bite back at Su Fang even at death's door. Su Fang's expression was indifferent. His eyes were ferocious and cold. He didn't stop the great Elder of Punishment. That was because he didn't care at all. Thus, with his strength and cultivation level, he didn't care about any criticism from the outside world. No matter how the great Elder of Punishment struggled, he couldn't stop his soul from flying out of his body. Swish! Swish! A blood vine shot out from Su Fang's palm, wrapped around the great Elder of Punishment's body, and sucked it into the Tao Palace. Then, after a frenzied devouring, in less than half an hour, the great Elder of Punishment was devoured until only a pile of ashes was left. Xing, the great Elder of Punishment's soul, was also devoured by the longevity lamp. However, Su Fang didn't intend to let him die so easily. Instead, he shackled him in a formation inside the longevity lamp. Because Su Fang controlled the power of the longevity lamp, the great Elder of Punishment's soul was always conscious. He also realized what he was about to face. In the formation, he shouted angrily, "Su Fang, what are you doing? Why don't you just kill me? Wouldn't it be too easy for you if I killed you? I just said that I'll make you feel that death is an extravagant hope." Su Fang's indifferent voice came. "Su Fang, what's the difference between you and those evil cultivators and the alien races? Kill me quickly." Ah, the great Elder of Punishment tried to enrage Su Fang so that he could end the pain as soon as possible. However, before the voice of his primordial spirit faded away, a soul fire gushed out from the formation beside him. It enveloped his soul and began to burn crazily. Even Su Fang almost couldn't bear the intense pain of his soul being burned, let alone the great Elder of Punishment. Under the intense pain, the great Elder of Punishment screamed like a ferocious ghost. However, this was just the beginning. What awaited the great Elder of Punishment was eternal torture. As long as Su Fang didn't die and the longevity lamp didn't extinguish, his soul would continue to be burned. Swoosh! 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 Hundreds of cultivators flew out of stalwart Star City. There were also dozens of invisible sensing forces that swept past Su Fang. It's really Su Fang. It's really Su Fang. Why is Su Fang in stalwart Star City? Who was that voice just now? It said that Su Fang killed Luo Qing? When everyone saw Su Fang, no one was not surprised, and no one was not suspicious. Su Fang naturally wouldn't explain anything. He took a step into the void and teleported out of stalwart Star City. Just now, someone shouted that Su Fang killed Luo Qing. Could it be that Luo Qing's arrogance caused him to be killed? I didn't expect Su Fang to be so narrow-minded. Luo Qing only announced in public that he wanted to surpass him. He didn't have any intention to offend him, but he was killed. Shut up. What kind of person is Su Fang? How can we discuss his matters? Luo Qing is just a Tao Lord. Why would Su Fang kill him? After Su Fang left, the cultivators discussed animatedly. Su Fang returned to Heaven Pavilion and entered the inner space of the cave abode. The great Tao is heartless. Cultivate the Jiuxuan Wuji scripture and cultivate the three separations. After that, it's to forget emotions and sever corpses. Do I have to sever everything? Su Fang was silent for a long time and then sighed. Witnessing Shi Xiandaozu's reincarnation being killed, but not being able to save him still affected Su Fang's state of mind. This was also because Su Fang's Tao heart had not reached the realm of perfection that could tolerate everything. While he could tolerate all temptations and will attacks, his family was the softest part of his heart. It was hard for him to accept the reality that Shi Xiandaozu had died in front of him. Whoosh! But Su Fang waved his hand and grabbed out a ray of divine light. The wine saint's lifelike shadow bloomed in his palm. The wine saint hesitated and then said, "Su Fang, there are rumors outside that say," Su Fang said coolly, "since they are rumors, why does senior sect brother believe them? Why don't you explain? Is there anything in the human world that needs my explanation?" Su Fang smiled lightly. "Does senior sect brother also believe that I killed Luo Qing? How can I not know what kind of person you are? Senior sect brother, you will understand in the future. There are some things I cannot say to you now. Senior sect brother understands, I will teach those people who spread the rumors a lesson. After finishing his conversation with the wine saint, Dongxian Daozu's thought came to Su Fang's residence. Su Fang, Master detects that your Dao heart is slightly unstable. Have those rumors affected your state of mind? What happened? Su asked. Su Fang told Dongxian Daozu everything without concealing anything. East Daozu sighed and said, This probably is fate playing tricks on people, everything is determined. Do not shake your Dao heart because of this matter. Su Fang nodded and said, This disciple understands. After this, Su Fang started to settle into cultivation. He did not pay attention to anything in the outside world, and did not investigate Shi Xian Daozu's reincarnation. However, the matter of Dao ancestor Shi Xian's reincarnation being killed still caused Su Fang's Dao heart to be shackled. He was still unable to cultivate his Dao heart to the Great Circle realm, and his eternal Dao heart remained at the 9th level. Years. The moon changed and time passed. 100,000 years passed. Su Fang completely disappeared from the eyes of the world. The human world was in a state of peace. There were unparalleled geniuses who rose to power, but there were also geniuses who fell. Su Fang was gradually forgotten by most cultivators. As time passed, he became an existence like Daozu in the minds of most human cultivators, powerful and mysterious. One day, Su Fang, who had been in seclusion, suddenly flew out of his residence. He sent out his sensory power, and felt the presence of his family, friends, and subordinate. Su Fang smiled slightly, and his eyes showed determination and persistence. East Xian Daozu suddenly transmitted his thought. Su Fang, are you preparing to enter the Leijia original realm? The time limit to enter the Leijia original realm was approaching. Su Fang was preparing to leave Heaven Pavilion and enter the Leijia original realm when the time was up. Failure in the Leijia original realm's 9 heavens trial meant death. Su Fang might not return this time. Thus, Dongxian Daozu's tone was very serious. Master, don't worry. The Leijia original realm's 2nd heaven trial is nothing to me. Chapter 3202. Su Fang left the eastern profound divine realm and traveled all the way to the outer chaos. He found a cold, empty place and sat down cross-legged in the outer chaos, waiting for the Thunder Lock original realm to open. Lightning. The Thunder Lock original realm was one with the heavenly Dao. No matter where Su Fang was, the heavenly Dao would sense where Su Fang was after 1,000,000 years and suck Su Fang into the Thunder Lock original realm. The reason Su Fang waited in the outer chaos was because he didn't want to draw attention to himself. Su Fang couldn't let outsiders know about the Thunder Lock original realm, so he had to be careful. Just like that. While Su Fang was waiting for the Thunder Lock original realm to open, Zhou Nua was preparing to enter the Thunder Lock original realm among the Tensei people who were separated from the human world. Zhou Nua sat cross-legged on a giant altar floating in the outer chaos. Zhou Nua still looked like a 15-year-old boy, but his aura was stronger than before. He was no longer in the Dao Void realm, but the Middle Dao Saint realm. With Zhou Nua's talent and the Tensei people's resources, it wasn't surprising that he could reach the Middle Dao Saint realm in 1,000,000 years. Just like that. Around the spell altar, over 100,000 Eternal Clan cultivators stood in the air, respectfully facing Zhou Nua on the spell altar. Among them was a middle-aged man wearing a golden crown and yellow robes. His face was similar to Zhou Nua's, and he exuded a sacred and noble aura. He was Zhou Nua's father and a king of the Tensei people. The middle-aged man looked at Zhou Nua with worry and anxiety in his eyes. He transmitted a message to Zhou Nua. Zhou Nua, you must be careful. Zhou Nua snorted coldly. Father, you're worried that if I die in the Thunder Lock original realm, you won't be a king for long, right? The middle-aged man smiled awkwardly. I'm your father. How can I not be worried about your safety? Zhou replied indifferently, Don't worry, father. I won't die. Everything in the Thunderlock original realm belongs to me, and I will become eternal. Not only will you be a king, but you will also become a king of the Tensei people because of me. You will enjoy wealth and glory forever. Then your father can rest assured. The middle-aged man's eyes suddenly became hale and hearty. Yunhua suddenly asked, I asked you to track down the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan. Have you found its whereabouts? After Lai Zhonhua left the original lightning domain, he left the Yi clan and Hu people Daozu in the ruins of God to wait for the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to enter the original lightning domain. Oh, God got it. The heavenly Blood King Vine was not caught, and the Yi clan and Hu people Daozu had actually fallen. Zhou suspected that not only was the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan not dead, but it had also killed 2 human Daozu. Therefore, he sent people to investigate. Yunua's father shook his head and said, The sky-piercing Blood King Vine is a high-level life form, but it is extremely rare in the chaos. It is very difficult to find the sky-piercing Blood King Vine that entered the Luai's original realm. You're truly useless. If you weren't my father… Zhou let out a cold snort. He seemed to be extremely displeased, and the voice of his soul was filled with killing intent. However, a figure that seemed to be a projection of the heavenly Tao appeared on the altar. It transformed into a middle-aged man in a green robe. This person had an ordinary appearance, but he exuded a sacred and immortal aura. He was the 7th forefather of the Tensei people, an immortal existence that surpassed the Daozu. Greetings, 7th forefather. Nua hurriedly knelt down. Many Tensei people around the altar also knelt down. I can sense that the original lightning domain is about to open. Are you ready, Zhou? The 7th forefather of the Tensei people stared at Zhou. Don't worry, 7th forefather. I will definitely be able to pass the second trial easily, Zhou said confidently. The 7th forefather of the Tensei people said coldly, You have used all kinds of methods in the past million years. I have also helped you personally, but you still haven't cultivated your Tao heart to the 3rd stage of perfection. You have disappointed me. Zhou trembled. I am useless. In order for you to pass the test of the 2nd heaven, the lost sea of heart, I did not hesitate to kill a Tao ancestor of the Stupa clan and cast a forbidden spell to fuse his Tao heart with yours, allowing you to temporarily attain the perfected 3rd heaven of Tao heart. If you fail again, it's fine if you die in the Thunder Lake original realm, but your family… you also know the consequences. I understand. Zhou trembled. Heaven, although the Ian race was one of the higher races in the chaos, the internal competition was 10 times more brutal than the average race. The Tensei people would spare no expense to nurture their clansmen who had a promising future. They would give them power and resources if they wanted. However, if they failed, the outcome would be very tragic. Even if Zhou failed in the original lightning domain, not only would he die, but his clansmen would also lose their power. They would also become slaves of other clansmen, which was equivalent to being obliterated. Rumble! A large patch of lightning appeared in the sky, forming a giant heavenly gate amidst the rumbling of thunder. Go, don't disappoint me. The Tensei people's 7th forefather waved his hand. Zhou cupped his fists and bowed to the Tensei people's 7th forefather before flying toward the heavenly gate. Swish! When he was 10,000 feet away from the heavenly gate, a patch of lightning surged and enveloped Zhou, sucking him into the heavenly gate. Wait! Zhou disappeared, and the heavenly gate turned into lightning and disappeared into the endless void. As Su Fang had left the original lightning domain a few hundred years later than Zhou, he entered the original lightning domain a few hundred years later. About 300 years after Zhou entered the Thunderlock origin realm, Su Fang was also sucked into the heavenly gates that appeared out of thin air and entered the Thunderlock origin realm. Whoosh! Su Fang Fang appeared on the second level of the original lightning domain, which was the 33rd island in the perplexed Heart Sea. The realm spirit's voice sounded in Su Fang's mind. Human cultivator, continue with your second level of trial. Remember, if you fail this time, you won't have any more chances. You'll be obliterated. I understand. Su Fang stepped out of the island, and a 300-foot-long ship formed from his Tao heart and willpower immediately formed beneath him. Although the size of the ship didn't change much, it had become more sturdy. It was ancient, vicissitudes of life, and an aura of eternity. The realm spirit's surprised voice sounded. Human cultivator, it looks like you've gained a lot in the past 1,000,000 years. You're about to cultivate an immortal Tao heart. I underestimated you. Su Fang replied, Thank you for the compliment, Lord Realm Spirit. Don't be too happy. You haven't cultivated an immortal Tao heart yet, so you don't have 100% chance of passing the second level of trial. Anything can happen. The Realm Spirit poured cold water on Su Fang. I'll do my best. Su Fang controlled the ship with his mind and sailed toward the 34th island. Boom, boom, boom. Monstrous waves rolled toward Su Fang, trying to overturn him and the ship. Such waves can't do anything to me, Su Fang. Su smiled. Fang smiled faintly. His strong confidence was fully displayed at this moment. The terrifying waves crazily hit the ship. At the same time, there was also an astonishing willpower, which attacked Su Fang's Tao heart and willpower like a storm. My heart is like the sky, and it can tolerate everything. No matter how big the waves are, when have I ever seen a wave that can overturn the sea? The ship shuttled back and forth in the raging waves. It seemed dangerous, but it was never overturned. Su Fang's Tao heart ship seemed to have merged with the entire perplexed Heart Sea. No matter how great the waves were, the sea was still the sea. Su Fang's heart allowed the waves to roar. He directly accepted and tolerated them instead of resisting them. Naturally, it was difficult to shake his Tao heart. The ship shuttled through the waves without any mishaps. In less than 10 years, they arrived at the 34th island. Su Fang had 30 days to rest. Su Fang never expected to meet someone on the 34th island. It was Zhou Nua from the Tensei people. Therefore, Su Fang was not surprised. He had already predicted that he might meet Zhou Nua in the Luai's original realm. Zhou Nua was even more shocked and surprised than Su Fang. You're a human cultivator? Since when did a lowly human enter the Luai's original realm? Zhou Nua suddenly realized. You're the heaven-piercing blood king vine. Su Fang's heart sank. Now that Zhou Nua had discovered his identity, he did not know what kind of trouble it would bring in the future. It might even bring disaster to the entire human race. Kill him! Su Fang shouted. A fierce killing intent surged in Fang's heart. Who knew without the power of will, he could not use any other power. Su Fang only then did Fang remember that in the Luai's original realms test, the clone that appeared was formed by his will. His original body was still in the first heaven. Zhou Nua's killing intent also surged. At this time, the realm spirit's cold voice transmitted. Killing is forbidden in the second heaven. If you can pass the second heaven's test, you will have a chance in the later test. Zhou Nua said proudly, Lord Realm Spirit, I am from the Tensei people. Fighting with this lowly human is a humiliation to me. The Realm Spirit said coldly, As long as you can pass the Luai's original realms test, no matter what race you are, you can become the master of the Luai's original realm. Whoever passes the test first will obtain everything in the Luai's original realm. The other person will naturally be obliterated. Tensei Peoples Jr., your identity is useless in the Luai's original realm. If you have the ability, prove yourself with your strength. Zhou Nua looked at Su Fang and snorted disdainfully. Insignificant and lowly human cultivator, what do you have to compete with me? The second heaven will be your burial ground. Su Fang said indifferently. Fang smiled casually. With his current level of Tao heart, There were no words that could cause a ripple in his Tao heart. Zhou was ignored by Su Fang and shouted angrily, "Human cultivator, I'm talking to you." Chapter 3203. Zhou Nua was speechless, his face full of shame and anger. Su Fang smiled indifferently. "Apart from your identity as the young prince of the Tensei people and your mouth, what else do you have to be so proud of? What right do you have to look down on me? With such a Tao heart, you want to pass the test of the second heaven?" Zhou Nua stared at Su Fang, his eyes surging with fierce killing intent. He said in a voice full of killing intent, "Human cultivator, you better die in the sea of confusion. Either you kneel down and beg for mercy, or I will not only kill you, but I will also obliterate the entire human race." Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and sat down on the island. In reality his heart was filled with killing intent towards Zhou Nua. However, since he couldn't kill him in the second heaven, what was the point of wasting his breath on him? He still had nearly 2/3 of the Sea of Confusion, so he had to concentrate all his energy on the following test. How could he have the leisure to argue with Zhou Nua? "Human ant, I will always be waiting for you in front. Don't let me leave you too far behind. I don't have the time to wait for you." Zhou Nua thought that Su Fang was afraid, so he sneered disdainfully. Then, he stepped onto the Tao Heart ship and sailed towards the Sea of Confusion. On the island, Su Fang adjusted his mental state to its peak state and also drove the ship towards the 34th island. Just like that, Zhou Nua and Su Fang, one in front and one behind, drove the Tao Heart ship and sailed through the Sea of Confusion. Zhou Nua didn't go back on his word. Every time he arrived at an island, he would wait for Su Fang on the island. This young prince of the Tensei people was by no means an idiot. He naturally had his reasons for doing this. He wanted to use this method to form an invisible pressure on Su Fang. As long as a flaw appeared in Su Fang's Tao heart, the possibility of failure in the second heaven would greatly increase. "Oh my! I know." In the face of Zhou Nua's incessant provocations, Su Fang maintained a calm and unruffled demeanor from beginning to end. Zhou Nua's various provocations were like a clown's to Su Fang. Zhou Nua was disappointed that his plan had failed, and his killing intent towards Su Fang grew even stronger. About 1,000 years passed. Along the way, he had braved countless storms, and his Tao heart had also withstood all kinds of tests. Yes, shocking willpower attacks, painful experiences, temptations, and threats. Not only was his Tao heart sturdy and only one step away from the immortal Tao heart, but his Tao heart had also reached a level where it could encompass heaven and earth. When facing various dangers, pain, and temptations, Su Fang's Tao heart was like a boundless ocean, the heavens and the earth. It embraced and accepted everything, and it was impossible for his Tao heart to be lost or collapse. Su Fang finally set foot on the 88th island. He had already completed more than half of the second test. There were only 11 islands left. Su Fang set foot on the island and immediately sat down cross-legged. He closed his eyes and began to rest. His Tao heart had been greatly exhausted, and he had to recover as soon as possible. Fortunately, after crossing the 66th island, the time to rest on the island had also increased. Every time, he would have 3 years to recover, which gave Su Fang a chance to catch his breath. "I was able to reach this place not because of my true strength, but because of the Tao heart of the Stupa clan's Daozu. How can a low-level human possess such a shocking Tao heart and will?" Zhou Nua had reached the 88th island before Su Fang. When he saw Su Fang, his eyes were filled with intense fear and jealousy. "Only one of us can survive in the Thunder Lake original realm. It's either I or that human cultivator. This person must not be left alive." In addition to being shocked, the killing intent in Zhou Nua's heart became sharper. Zhou Su Fang was also surprised that Zhou Nua could reach this place so easily. The Tensei people are indeed the upper race among the primal chaos races. A mere young disciple can actually possess such a Tao heart and will. It seems that Zhou Nuo has made sufficient preparations for the second test in the past 1,000,000 years. It should not be a problem for him. I can only try to kill him in the third test. The killing intent in Su Fang's heart was definitely not inferior to Zhou Nuo's. 10 years passed by in the blink of an eye. I will be able to pass the test of the second test, the Lost Heart Sea, after passing through 11 more islands. However, the next test will definitely be 10 times more difficult than the previous one. I have to be careful. Su Fang's eyes were filled with seriousness. He took a step out of the island and steered the Tao Heart ship, continuing to advance into the depths of the Lost Heart Sea. To Su Fang's surprise, the Lost Heart Sea, which was filled with torrential waves before, was now calm and tranquil. There was not a trace of wind, nor was there a single wave. It was as if he had entered a dead sea. Su Fang became more and more vigilant in his heart. That tranquil Lost Heart Sea actually contained great danger. The realm spirit's voice suddenly rang in Su Fang's mind. Human cultivator, you have to be careful. The next test you will face is the illusory sea inner demon. The illusory sea inner demon. With your current Tao heart, all the wills from the outside world will not be able to affect you. However, the inner demon comes from your heart and not from the outside world. It is the most difficult to resolve. Thank you for your reminder, Lord Realm Spirit. Why are you helping me? That junior of the Tensei people is borrowing the power of the forbidden technique. It is equivalent to cheating. For the sake of fairness, I am reminding you. I see. I was wondering how Zhou Nuo's Tao heart could reach such an astonishing height at such a young age. So it was because of the forbidden technique. He had just finished his conversation with the realm spirit. Boom! Outside, the Lost Heart Sea was still calm and tranquil. However, a huge wave suddenly surged in Su Fang's heart, causing him to instantly fall into an illusion. Whoosh! 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 Numerous lifelike figures of Su Fang appeared in front of Su Fang. Those figures were incomparably real, but they came from different periods of time. Small worlds, great worlds, myriad worlds, and even the Jiuxuan divine realm. They were Su Fang from different periods of time, different places, different cultivation levels, and different mental states. Whoosh! They were thoughts condensed from Su Fang's sealed memories. Under the influence of the Lost Heart Sea, all of them surged out from the depths of Su Fang's memories, representing Su Fang's past. The thoughts swarmed toward Su Fang, each of them carrying a different and incomparably intense emotion. They wanted to seize Su Fang's consciousness. Once Su Fang's consciousness was dominated by his past self, it would be shackled and sink into the past. My Tao heart is like a mountain. Even my past self would find it difficult to shake my Tao heart. Cultivation is not only about defeating strong enemies, it is also about defeating oneself. Only by surpassing oneself again and again can one step onto the supreme peak. Su Fang's will was like a blade, shattering the illusory figures one after another. Illusory in the illusion, new thoughts continuously surged out, transforming into numerous Su Fang figures that charged at Su Fang, wanting to seize his will. After an unknown period of time, Su Fang also did not know how many thoughts he had shattered. Whoosh! Suddenly, everything became clear and bright. The 90th island appeared in front of Su Fang's eyes. I've finally passed another trial. Su Fang wiped the sweat from his forehead. Even with his current strength, which was comparable to the powerful Daozu, he was sweating. There was still lingering fear in his heart. It was clear how terrifying his experience was. Human ant, you're too slow. I almost couldn't wait any longer. As soon as Su Fang stepped onto the island, Zhou Nuo's mocking voice came from the island. Su Fang snorted coldly and sat down cross-legged on the island. He hurriedly seized the time to recover his Tao heart and will. The power of will consumed this time was 10 times more than before. It made Su Fang feel mentally and physically exhausted. I hope to see you again later. Zhou Nuo let out a cold laugh full of satisfaction and disdain, then left the island. The trials that Fang faced next became more and more terrifying. Not only were there memories of the past, but there were also imaginations of the future. They turned into willpower thoughts and attacked Su Fang's Tao heart. Shock, fear, self-blame, worry, and other negative emotions drowned his will and wanted to seize his consciousness. Fang couldn't escape. There was nowhere to escape the battle in his heart. He could only face it. The only thing he could do was to constantly kill those thoughts. In order to kill those thoughts from the past and the future, Fang not only consumed a large amount of willpower, but those thoughts also came from Fang himself. Killing those thoughts also consumed Fang's spirit and willpower. Fang consumed twice the amount of willpower. One could imagine the trials he was going through. 91 islands. 912, 93, all the way until the 96th island. Fang stumbled and fell to the ground as soon as he stepped onto the island. At this point, Fang's willpower was on the verge of collapse. His Tao heart was also exhausted. There was only one last thought left in his consciousness. So I'm my own strongest enemy. I'm 10 times, 100 times stronger than the enemies in the outside world. I can't defeat myself. This time, I'm afraid I'm going to die here. Fang used all his strength to sit up. His eyes were filled with bitterness and helplessness. No, I still want to reach the peak of the great Tao and achieve eternal immortality. My family, friends, subordinates, and the entire human race need my protection. The 10 Directions Divine Masters, the foreign races, Zhou Nuo, these powerful enemies are still around. Just when Fang was feeling despair, strong willpower, kindness, and evil thoughts surged in his heart, urging him to pull himself together. The reason why I can't pass the following trials isn't because my Tao heart isn't strong or steady enough. It's because my realm isn't high enough. There must be a way to pass the trials. It's just that I haven't found it yet. Fang fell into deep thought. 10 years were about to pass. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Fang, who had been sitting cross-legged on the island, suddenly opened his eyes. His tired eyes flashed with a hale and hearty light. Why do I have to defeat myself? No one can defeat themselves. Cultivation is not about defeating themselves. I can tolerate all the willpower attacks and temptations from the outside world. Why can't I tolerate myself? Why do I have to defeat myself? Tolerance and acceptance of everything from the outside world and the self. This is the true state of emptiness and impurity. The heart is like heaven and earth. Chapter 3204. Fang once again stepped onto the Tao heart ship and sped towards the next island. Boom, boom. Confusion. The perplexed mind was still calm, but Fang's heart was in turmoil. Memories and thoughts from the past and the future transformed into illusory thoughts that rushed towards Fang. My heart is like the heavens. It can accommodate all external attacks, and it can also accommodate all of my own. Fang smiled and opened his heart completely to accommodate and accept everything. Thoughts instantly enveloped Fang. All kinds of emotions began to attack Fang's will, trying to dominate his consciousness. Luo Qing, go to hell! Great Elder Fa's sinister laughter suddenly rang out. The scene of Luo Qing being killed flashed through Fang's mind. You could have saved Master at that time. Why didn't you do it? Perhaps if you had saved him, it wouldn't have affected Master's reincarnation. His own voice rang out in Fang's mind. It was like a sharp blade stabbing into his Tao heart. Intense self-blame and guilt instantly enveloped his consciousness. With a detached heart, Fang felt the intense negative emotions. He calmly faced and accepted them. He did not resist or defend himself. No, not long after, the tide-like torrent of emotions turned into nothingness and was contained by Fang. Just in this way, Fang no longer regarded himself as a strong enemy, nor did he resist those thoughts. Just as the thoughts were contained by him, his Tao heart realm was also undergoing a very wonderful transformation, transforming and sublimating towards the great perfection. Whoosh! The Tao heart ship seemed to have sailed out of the fog, and the 97th island appeared in sight. All kinds of thoughts also disappeared without a trace in Su Fang's mind. Same as at this time, Su Fang's heart also had a feeling of boundless sea and sky, unrestrained and unrestrained. It was only now that he finally understood what it meant to be truly empty, without impurities, and with a heart like the heavens and the earth. Just when Su Fang's state of mind improved again, Zhou Nua had already set foot on the last island. This will descended and enveloped Zhou Nua, then swept him out of the perplexed mind sea. When he regained consciousness, he found that his consciousness had returned to his main body. While his main body, on the other hand, was in a part of nature, sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak. I have finally successfully passed through the second layer of the Leisha original realm. Is there any other obstacle that can stop me, Zhou Nua? Zhou Nua smiled confidently and revealed a domineering and lofty aura. Junior of the Tensei people, you've passed the test of the second layer of heaven. This is your reward. Realm Spirit's figure appeared on top of the mountain peak. He grabbed a xianguang and flew it towards Zhou Nua. Zhou Nua grabbed the xianguang, and an immortal jade appeared in his hand. His gaze instantly became spirited. Immortal heaven heart jade? There are indeed great treasures in the Luai's origin realm. There are actually supreme treasures that can cultivate one's Tao heart. Realm Spirit said indifferently, you're lucky this time. You used a forbidden technique to borrow another person's Tao heart and luckily passed. However, I have to warn you, if you continue to use this kind of cheating method in the next test, I will directly kill you with the Luai's origin realm's laws. Thank you for your reminder, Lord Realm Spirit. I won't do it again. Zhou Nua's heart skipped a beat. He quickly cupped his fists and said. Then, he couldn't help but ask, Lord Realm Spirit, may I ask how far did that human cultivator go before he died? Realm Spirit was startled. Then, he revealed an embarrassed smile. You don't have to worry about his result. Junior of the Tensei people, are you going to continue the test of the third layer of heaven or are you going to leave? Zhou Nua replied, now that I'm going to the third layer of heaven, it's equivalent to having an extra chance. Naturally, I won't miss it. I hope you'll be as lucky as the one in the perplexed mind see in the undying heaven of the third layer of heaven. Realm Spirit let out a cold and embarrassed voice. Then, he activated a world god's might and swept Zhou Nua out of the second layer of heaven. Su Fang was still moving forward in the perplexed mind sea. Regardless of whether it was from the outside world or from the inside of his heart, the attacks and temptations were unable to shake Su Fang's will. Although it was still not easy, there was no danger to him anymore. Su Fang flew up from the Tao Heart ship and landed on the island. Part 199 Islands, meaning Su Fang had finally passed the test of the second layer of heaven. You've really surprised me. I thought you would be trapped in the perplexed mind and die in the second layer of heaven. Realm Spirit's surprised voice sounded. Then, a world god's might swept Su Fang away. Su Fang regained his consciousness. He discovered that everything that happened just now was just an illusion that his consciousness experienced. His original body was sitting on the peak of a mountain in perfect condition. No, it was obviously not the first layer of heaven. The spirit energy and laws of this world were obviously of a higher level than the first layer of heaven. The first layer of heaven allowed the mortals of the low-level universes to survive. This place was the holy land for the immortals of the low-level universes to cultivate. The old man that Realm Spirit transformed into appeared in front of Su Fang. He nodded at Su Fang and said, Human cultivator, congratulations on passing the test of the second layer of heaven. I didn't expect that a mere human could have such a powerful Tao heart and state of mind. From now on, at least within the Daozu realm, you won't have any shackles on your state of mind. Thank you for your praise, Lord Realm Spirit. May I ask, Lord Realm Spirit, is my current Tao heart not the highest realm? Of course not. Although your Tao heart is as boundless as the heavens and earth and can contain everything, it still can't reach the height of the heavenly Tao. The higher realm is Taishang emotionless, just like the heavenly Tao. Su Fang's heart moved. Taishang emotionless? This is also the realm of Taishang emotionless. When the heavenly Tao is cultivated to the extreme, it seems that it is interlinked. Realm Spirit continued, although you passed the test of the second layer of heaven, unfortunately, the reward was taken away by the junior of the Tensei people, so I don't have anything to reward you. No reward? Su Fang was disappointed. What is the reward of the second layer of heaven? The reward that Su Fang wanted the most was naturally the heavenly Tao fruit. He was at the critical moment of breaking through to the Daozu realm. With the heavenly Tao fruit, his chances of breaking through to the Daozu realm would be greater. Realm Spirit answered, the immortal heaven heart jade. The immortal heaven heart jade? What does it have to do with the immortal heaven heart stone? The immortal heaven heart jade is the essence of the immortal heaven heart stone. It is 100 times more effective than the immortal heaven heart stone when used to cultivate the Tao heart. You are now only one step away from the true immortal Tao heart, and there are no shackles on your state of mind. If you have the immortal heaven heart jade, you can cultivate the immortal Tao heart. Realm Spirit's words made Su Fang's heart beat rapidly. His eyes lit up. Realm Spirit said, that junior of the Tensei people made use of the Tensei people's forbidden technique and merged with the supreme Tao heart of a Daozu realm Buddha. That was how he surpassed you and passed the second layer of heaven in advance. To be fair, I will give you a chance to snatch the immortal heaven heart jade from him in the third layer of heaven. However, according to the rules set by the Reizeigu people, you cannot kill him in the third layer of heaven. Su Fang was surprised and happy. Thank you, Lord Realm Spirit. You don't have to thank me. I am also following the rules of the original Luai's realm. Human cultivator, have you decided to leave the original Luai's realm or continue to the third layer of heaven? Of course I will continue. Alright, I wish you good luck. A divine aura of the world surged around Su Fang and swept him away from the second layer of heaven. Whoosh! Su Fang recovered from the state of weightlessness. Then, Su Fang was surprised to find that his physical body appeared together with him this time, unlike the previous 2 layers of heaven. He opened his eyes. And looked over. He was now on the shore of a sea of blood. The sea of blood occupied the entire space. The blood water was tumbling, and an astonishing amount of vitality was rolling over. The vitality in the sea of blood contained an astonishing amount of vitality. It seeped into Su Fang's body through his skin, causing the vitality in Su Fang's body to surge uncontrollably. Even the heaven-piercing blood King Vine trembled and wanted to rush out of his body. In the sea of blood, there were 9 skulls that were at least 1,000 feet in size. They had no flesh, only bones. The skulls of the huge heads were like plazas. There is actually such an astonishing place in the original Luai's realm. I wonder what the test of the third layer of heaven will be? Could it be related to life? Su Fang was shocked and made another guess. This Realm Spirit's voice sounded in Su Fang's mind. The test of the third layer of heaven in the original Luai's realm is called the Undying Heaven. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. The Undying Heaven? The Undying Heaven was originally a sacred place for the severely injured Reizeigu people to recover. Later, when the immortal realm masters created the original Luai's realm, they moved the Undying Heaven here. The test of the Undying Heaven is very simple. From this side of the sea of blood to the other side, you have to defeat the monsters that appear from the sea of blood. Let me remind you, you can only use the strength of your physical body. Also, the monsters in the Sea of Blood are immortal. Unless you have absolute strength to kill the monsters in one blow, they can absorb the vitality in the Sea of Blood to revive. Do you see the skulls in the Sea of Blood? You have to kill all the way to the skulls to have a short rest. Also, you can absorb the vitality in the Sea of Blood to recover your life. Remember, if you are swallowed by the monsters on the way, or if you are shot into the Sea of Blood, you will fail the test. Let's begin, human cultivator. The test of the undying heaven should be more difficult for you than the previous 2 layers of heaven. I hope you can seize this opportunity and sum up some experience. If you fail the next time, you will not have any more chances in the future. The realm spirit of the original Luai's realm was obviously partial to Su Fong. He patiently introduced the test to Su Fong. Thank you, Lord Realm Spirit. Su Fong nodded and stepped out of the Sea of Blood. Splash! Splash! Chapter 3205. Hua 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 Su. As soon as Fong's foot landed on the bone bridge, the blood around him immediately rolled, and bloody figures appeared. Blood. They were about the same size as a normal person, but they were not made of blood. They had flesh, blood, and bones, but no skin. They looked bloody and terrifying. As soon as the bloody figures came out of the blood, they immediately jumped onto the bone bridge and blocked Su Fong's path. In a short while, the front of the bone bridge was filled with terrifying bloody figures, and more bloody figures appeared from the blood sea and jumped onto the bone bridge. I have to cross the bone bridge and reach the head as soon as possible. The longer I delay, the more monsters there will be, and it will be harder to pass. Fong looked at the bloody figures and his scalp went numb. Those bloody figures exuded a majestic vitality, and their vitality was almost at the same level as a Taoist cultivator. With Su Fong's current strength, it was not difficult to kill these bloody figures. However, Su Fong knew very well that the third heaven, the undying heaven, was not so easy to pass. Whoosh! Whoosh! 3 The bloody figures charged at Su Fong side by side. The bone bridge was less than 3 feet wide, and could only accommodate 3 bloody figures side by side. There were more bloody figures behind them. Su Fong was about to condense his thoughts to kill the bloody figures, but then he realized that he could not use his will or magic power to condense his thoughts. He could not take out his Xian Bao, and it was difficult for him to fly. So the third heaven is a test of the physical body and life, so I can't use any magic. Fong was enlightened. However, the sky-piercing Blood King Vine could be used, and Su Fong was relieved. In a flash, 3 bloody figures flew over, and their bodies set off a shocking wave of blood qi, making Su Fong feel suffocated. Boom! Boom! Su Fong could only fight the bloody figures with his physical strength. Although he could not use his will or magic. However, Su Fong had a perfect physical body and had gone through nirvana. After becoming a saint, his physical strength would far surpass cultivators of the same level, and even surpass most Daozu. One after a series of collisions, the bodies of the 3 bloody figures that were charging over exploded and were completely shattered. Who would have thought more and more bloody people were charging at them? Just the 3 bloody figures that had been shattered by Su Fong quickly recovered after devouring the blood energy in the blood sea around them. They appeared behind Su Fong and formed a pincer attack with the monsters in front of Su Fong. Just like what Realm Spirit said, those monsters are almost immortal. Unless one has absolute power and can kill them in one blow, they will revive with the help of the blood sea. I have to end this quickly. Su Fong did not dare to be careless. He unleashed his full strength and crushed his way through. About half an hour later, Su Fong, who was bathed in blood, finally made his way through the bloody people and stepped onto the head of the giant head. The bloody figures behind him quickly sank into the blood sea along with the bone bridge, disappearing without a trace. Tough, those monsters are really tough. After checking the injuries on his body, Su Fong grimaced in pain. The blood on his body was from those monsters and his own. Along the way, his body was covered in wounds. There was a hideous wound from his chest all the way to his abdomen, and his intestines were almost cut open. After losing a lot of blood, coupled with the injuries on his physical body and internal organs, Su Fang had lost more than half of his blood energy, causing his life to become very weak. A kind of weakness and exhaustion that he had not felt for a long time enveloped his body and mind. Buzz! Buzz! The blood energy in Fang's body surged, and the wounds on the surface of his body quickly began to heal. Although his breath was still weak, his spirit was very hale and hearty. Although the test of the third heaven is very difficult, and ordinary cultivators can't pass it, but for me, it's nothing. This test of the first heaven may be the easiest test, Su Fang said. Fang smiled embarrassedly, and there was a hint of disdain in his eyes. He originally had a perfect physical body, and after going through nirvana, becoming a saint and reconstructing his physical body, his life had almost reached the limit of what a human could achieve. But he still had a trump card, the heaven-piercing blood king vine. In the undying heaven, all thoughts, divine powers, and Xian Bao could not be used. But the heaven-piercing blood king vine had fused with Su Fang's physical body, which meant that it was a part of his physical body. Naturally, it could be used. When he fought with those bloody men just now, he did not activate the heaven-piercing blood king vine. He just wanted to test the strength of those monsters. Whoosh! Su Fangjing sat there cross-legged. From the crack of the skull below him, a pure and high-level life energy suddenly surged out and quickly seeped into his body. Sha! That! Su Fang felt that the originally weak blood energy in his body began to surge, and the life energy became majestic again. And the pure blood energy also contained a kind of baptism power, which constantly cleansed Su Fang's blood energy, causing his blood energy to become even more high-level. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. There are such benefits in the undying heaven. After 5 minutes, Su Fang's physical body calmed down. Yes, after sensing his body, Su Fang realized that his internal and external injuries had recovered by more than half. Ru Su Fang would not be so surprised if Guang had recovered. After fusing with the blood energy, Su Fang's blood energy had become purer and more majestic. Su Fang's physical body was so deep that it was extremely difficult to improve even a little bit. After fusing with the blood energy, it actually improved his physical body. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised again. Who but Zhou Zhounua's mocking voice came from the front. Human ant, you are very proud now. Unfortunately, you won't be proud for long. This is just the beginning. Next, you will know how difficult it is to pass the test of the third heaven in the Luai's original realm. He looked over. On the third skull, Zhou was sitting cross-legged and recovering. His face was as pale as paper, and his breath was chaotic and weak. He looked like a corpse that had been dead for a long time. Obviously, Zhou had consumed an astonishing amount of energy to reach this step. He had already reached his limit. You must be very disappointed that I could pass the test of the second heaven, right? Su Fang retorted bluntly. Zhou sneered disdainfully. You have indeed surprised me. However, it is only a slight surprise. However, this is also good. With a stepping stone like you, it will save me from boredom. Su Yun said. Fang sneered. Stepping stone? In the second heaven, you used cheating methods to pass the test of the perplexed mind. See. Let's see what other methods you have to cheat in the third heaven. Zhou snorted coldly. With my current strength, it is indeed difficult to pass the test of the third heaven, but you can forget about it too. Although the Tensei people do not cultivate their physical bodies, they are a higher race that is 10 times, no, 100 times more advanced than you humans. I am almost at the end of my rope, let alone a lowly human cultivator like you. Why don't you wait and see? Fang smiled faintly, stood up from the giant skull, and took a step into the air. From white bones immediately appeared in the sea of blood, condensing into a bone bridge that reached the giant skull thousands of feet away. Whoosh! Su Fang ran on the bone bridge with large strides. His aura was like a rainbow. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The blood in the sea of blood surged, and blood men flew out, landing on the bone bridge with waves of blood, blocking Su Fang's path. The blood chi of these blood men was even more astonishing. Compared to the blood men that Su Fang had fought before, they were 10 times stronger. Ha! The revered blood man let out a beast-like roar and pounced towards Su Fang. Chi! Su Fang did not stop in his tracks. When he was 10 feet away from the blood man at the front, he suddenly waved his hand and rolled out a blood vine, firmly entangling the blood man. Countless blood threads seeped into the blood man's body, crazily devouring its blood chi. Wait! When Su Fang walked in front of the blood man, with a whoosh, the blood man turned into bones and scattered. Its blood chi was completely devoured. These blood men were indeed difficult to kill. In the sea of blood they were immortal. However, the heaven-piercing blood king vine directly sucked the blood man's blood chi, and naturally, it could not be resurrected. Roar! 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 Hundreds of blood men rushed toward Su Fang. Chi! 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 Blood vines waved out from Su Fang's body, making him look like a tentacle monster. Every single one of them. A blood vine wrapped around a blood man, wantonly devouring their blood chi. Su Fang walked forward with large strides, and the blood men were shattered one after another, their bones falling into the sea of blood. Although more and more blood men kept appearing from the sea of blood, they could not stop Su Fang's pace. In less than half an hour, Su Fang walked across the bone bridge, and arrived on the second head floating in the sea of blood. Not only was he not injured, but the blood chi that he lost earlier was replenished, making him return to his peak state. Heaven-piercing blood king vine? Damn it, how could I forget about the heaven-piercing blood king vine? Cheating, you are cheating. Nuo was surprised and shocked at first, but soon after, he shouted loudly in dissatisfaction. Su Fang sneered and said, cheating? My heaven-piercing blood king vine was cultivated from the heaven-piercing blood king vine seed, and merged with my body. It is also my body's ability. How can it be considered cheating? At this time, Realm Spirit's voice sounded. You have merged with the heaven-piercing blood king vine, so it is naturally your ability. It is not considered cheating. The heaven-piercing blood king vine restrains the blood chi of life. The undying heavens test is not difficult for you. I take back what I said to you before. The previous realm spirit thought that to Su Fang, the third heavens test was more difficult than the previous 2 heavens. Now he had to admit that he was wrong. Not only could Su Fang pass the third heavens test smoothly, but it was also easy. Realm Spirit's words made Zhou Nuo gnash his teeth. He thought that he was a higher life form and looked down on Su Fang, high and mighty. He did not expect to be inferior to Su Fang in the third heaven. He would definitely be surpassed by Su Fang. Naturally, he was unconvinced. Not only do I want to surpass you, but I also want to take the immortal heaven heart jade that originally belonged to me. Su Fang looked at Zhou Nuo and said in a voice filled with killing intent. An ant-like existence dares to vainly attempt to snatch my treasures? Although I cannot pass the third heaven, you want to snatch my immortal heaven heart jade? Wishful thinking. Chapter 3206. Zhou Nuo knew very well that it would be difficult for him to pass the test with his current strength, because if he did not want the immortal heaven heart jade to fall into Su Fang's hands, he could only choose to fail and leave the Thunder Lake original realm. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Leave the immortal heaven heart stone before you leave. Su Fang sneered and waved his right arm. Whoosh! Su Fang's entire right arm transformed into a blood vine and extended out like a blood python. It pierced through the layers of shackles, crossed the blood sea, and firmly wrapped around Zhou Nuo. And although Zhou Nuo was not as strong as Su Fang, he was not that weak. However, in the undying heaven, Zhou Nuo had a powerful ability and a peerless Xian Bao, but he could not use it now. How could he be a match for the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine with just his physical body? Whoosh, whoosh. From the blood sea, a white bone arm reached out and grabbed the blood vine, trying to tear it apart. Su Fang's heaven-piercing Blood King Vine had merged with the primordial energy and became as tough as the primal chaos god lock chain. The white bone arm could not tear it apart in a short time. The other end of the blood vine penetrated Zhou Nua's body and began to devour his blood energy. Take the immortal heaven heart stone. Zhou Nua was shocked and had no choice but to take out the immortal heaven heart stone. He extended a branch from the blood vine and wrapped it around the immortal heaven heart stone. Su Fang said coldly, "Just the immortal heaven heart stone is not enough. I want you to swear that after leaving the Thunder Lake original realm, you will not enter the human world and will not threaten me with the human race." Zhou Nua gritted his teeth and said, "Human ant, are you threatening me? Do you know what will happen to you if you do this?" Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and urged the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to devour again. "Stop. I swear that I will not enter the human world and threaten you with the human race. Otherwise, I will be punished by the heavens." Zhou Nua's aura instantly weakened. Seeing that his life was in danger, he had no choice but to swear. Su Fangda shouted, "Lord Realm Spirit, please be my witness." Realm Spirit's cold voice sounded, "Fighting for the Leisure Origin Realm should be a fair competition. If you rely on your own strength to win, what qualifications do you have to become the ruler of the Leisure Origin Realm? Remember, no matter who it is, if you attack anyone outside the Leisure Original Realm, I will not let you off easily once you enter the Leisure Original Realm." Only then did Su Fang calm down and release Zhou Nua. Then, he urged the blood vine to wrap around the immortal heaven heart stone and quickly pulled it back. After absorbing the immortal heaven heart stone into his body, Su Fang was overjoyed. "Human ant, just you wait. I'll surely catch up to you 1,000,000 years from now, and if I have the chance, I'll surely kill you," Nua coldly shouted, then stepped out of the skull and onto the bone bridge. The outcome was as expected. Zhou Nua persisted on the bone bridge for less than 10 breaths of time before he was blasted flying by the blood figure, and he fell into the sea of blood before vanishing without a trace. Tensei people are nothing more than this. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and sat down cross-legged on the skull to accept the baptism of blood energy. After half an hour, Su Fang merged with the pure, high-grade blood energy. He felt that his body and blood energy had become stronger again, and he was overjoyed. "This time, I'm going to charge through the third heaven and enter the fourth heaven in one go." Su Fang looked at the other side of the sea of blood, and his eyes flashed with a bright light. Then, he went straight for the third head. This time, Su Fang encountered more blood figures, and they were even stronger. However, he had the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. No matter how strong those blood figures were, they couldn't stop him. He was invincible along the way. Just like that, Su Fang relied on the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to successfully cross the bone bridge and step on the heads one by one. Finally, he arrived on the 9th head. After merging with the pure blood energy from the skull below him, Su Fang's life energy surged wildly, turning into the flames of life that burned fiercely. First, layers of impurities seeped out of his body, and they were incomparably smelly. They were like the impurities expelled from the body after a breakthrough. After 6 hours, his body finally calmed down. Su Fang felt as if he had been reborn. He separated his consciousness and sensed inside his body. He found that the life energy in his body had become incomparably majestic. Every cell could be said to be perfect, containing an astonishing amount of life essence. Every strand of hair was flickering with a bright light. Human cultivator, congratulations. Not only did you pass the test of 2 heavens consecutively, but you also passed the test of the undying heaven. Your life energy has already surpassed the limit of the human race. Realm Spirit's figure appeared in front of Su Fang, and he nodded at Su Fang. This time, it's purely luck. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly, but he felt somewhat ashamed in his heart. Indeed. It was indeed luck. If it wasn't for the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, how could it be so easy to pass the test of the third heaven? Realm Spirit continued, you have the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. This is your ability. It's not luck. Moreover, luck itself is a part of a cultivator's strength. Then, Realm Spirit waved his hand, and a divine aura rolled out, enveloping Su Fang. Follow me. Su Fang's body was uncontrollable. He traveled through space and appeared in a real world. The spiritual energy and heavenly laws in this world were comparable to that of the God realm in a low-level universe. However, compared to the Pansong universe, it was much more powerful. The spiritual energy was incomparably pure and abundant. It was like a holy land for cultivation. Su Fang thought in his heart, if a catastrophe occurs in the human world, I can move all the lives in the Pansong universe to the Luai's original realm. Even if I die in the future, they will continue to live in the Luai's original realm. Realm Spirit waved his hand and grabbed a piece of Xian Guang. He said to Su Fang, Human cultivator, you have passed the test of the third heaven. You will receive the corresponding reward. There are a total of 3 different treasures. You can only choose one. Su Fang fixed his eyes on it. World Ji Na this piece of Xian Guang contained the will of the Luai's original realm. Even with Su Fang's strength, it was difficult for him to see what kind of treasure was enveloping the Xian Guang. He could only vaguely see an outline. Su Fang smiled bitterly and said, Lord Realm Spirit, I don't even know what the treasure is. How can I make a choice? That will depend on your luck. Luck itself is one of the tests of the Luai's original realm. Realm Spirit chuckled. Luck? Although Su Fang's luck has always been good, I believe in my own judgment more. Fang used the heavenly prying eye and looked at the piece of Xian Guang with rapt attention. Not as expected, Su Fangdao was disappointed. Even the heavenly prying eye could not see what kind of treasure was inside. Realm Spirit smiled and said, Your ability is not bad. However, your strength is still too weak. Solution? Su Fang smiled faintly. However then, he used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and the heavenly secret solution to deduce the heavenly secret and fate. Then, with guidance, he grabbed one of the 3 treasures inside the Xian Guang. It was a 1-foot square wooden box. It was ancient and vicissitudes of life. He did not know what kind of treasure was inside. Realm Spirit said in surprise, It seems like your luck is not bad. The treasure you chose is exactly what you need. Su Fang opened the wooden box. A fresh and mysterious great Tao aura spread out from the box. Just by smelling some of the overflowing aura, Su Fang had a sudden epiphany about some of the questions he had regarding cultivation. That's... Su Fang's heart pounded when he saw the fist-sized fruit sealed in the wooden box. It was surging with lightning. Realm Spirit said, It's a supreme treasure that only the Reizegu people have, the Luai's Tao fruit. It's also called the Heavenly Tao fruit. This is the Luai's Tao fruit? Su Fang was surprised and delighted. He was preparing to advance to the Daozu level. The Luai's Tao fruit was a supreme treasure for advancing to the Daozu level. Now that the Tao fruit was in his hands, how could he not be excited? Then, coupled with the immortal Heaven Heart Jade he had snatched from Zhou Nua, his physical body and Tao heart had transformed. This time, he was almost certain to advance to the Daozu level. Realm Spirit smiled embarrassedly and said, 3 treasures. One is a peerless ability of the Reizegu people, one is a pill that surpasses the king grade, and one is the Luai's Tao fruit. Although the other 2 are precious, they are not very useful to you now. The Luai's Tao fruit is the most useful to you. You actually chose this treasure. If this is not luck, then what is? Su Fang happily put away the Luai's Tao palace and chuckled. Of course, this was not luck. It was the result of deduction using the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and the heavenly divination mystic solution. Realm Spirit continued, Human cultivator, when you first entered the Luai's original realm, I determined that the possibility of you passing the 9 heavens test was less than 10%. Now, it seems that not only do you have the ability, you also have supreme luck. I estimate that you have at least a 40% chance of passing the 9 heavens test and becoming the master of the Luai's original realm. Realm Spirit's evaluation made Fong very happy. Realm Spirit asked, Human cultivator, you have passed 2 heavens in a row. Do you want to continue to the 4th heavens? Yes, of course. This was a rare opportunity. Even if he failed, he would be able to find out what the 4th heavens test was and make preparations after leaving the Luai's original realm. Su Fong naturally would not miss this opportunity. With your strength, it is impossible for you to pass the 4th heavens. However, it is good for you to try now. I estimate that after you pass the 4th heavens test and leave the Luai's original realm, you will be able to successfully become a Daozu. It will be greatly beneficial to your future achievements. Why is that? You will know in a while. Realm Spirit kept Su Fong in suspense. After chuckling, he moved Su Fong's original body into an independent spacetime. Just as Su Fong entered the 4th heavens, Zhou Nua was also moved out of the Luai's original realm. He escaped from the lightning and landed on the spell altar where he left. Congratulations to young King Zhou Nua for your successful return. Young King Zhou is mighty. The fact that Zhou Nua was able to return alive from the Luai's original realm proved that he had successfully passed the 2nd heavens test. The many Tensei people who had been waiting around the spell altar, led by Zhou Nua's father, bowed to Zhou Nua and congratulated him loudly. Zhou Nua's father flew to the spell altar and said to Zhou Nua with a smile, You are indeed my son. The Reizeigu people's test is nothing to you. Zhou Nua was chased out of the Luai's original realm by Su Fong and lost the immortal Heaven Heart Jade. Naturally, he was not in a good mood and vented his anger on his father. He snorted and said, You are not so happy for me. You are happy for yourself because you have retained your wealth, right? Zhou Nua's father smiled embarrassedly. How can I be such a person? Chapter 3207. Greetings, 7th Forefather. Zhou Nua and his father hurriedly saluted. After. The 7th Forefather of the Tensei people was an undying existence that surpassed the Daozu. If it wasn't for Zhou Nua, how could he be qualified to meet such a person? Zhou Nua, you really didn't disappoint me. The 7th Forefather of the Tensei people stroked his beard and nodded at Zhou Nua. Zhou Nua said regretfully, It's a pity that I couldn't pass the test of the 3rd heaven. The 7th Forefather asked, What's the test of the 3rd heaven of the Luai's original realm? Physical body. Zhou Nua answered truthfully. The test of physical body is much easier than the test of the 2nd heaven. The 7th Forefather relaxed and smiled embarrassedly. The cultivators of my race don't prioritize the physical body. However, with the resources of my race, why worry about not being able to strengthen your physical body? As for time, my race has mastered the supreme great Tao of time. Time is not a problem. Zhou Nua's expression was still gloomy. A human cultivator actually entered the Luai's original realm. Moreover, he has the heaven-piercing Blood King vine. Therefore, the test of the 3rd heaven is not difficult for him. I estimate that he can pass the test of the 3rd heaven this time. The 7th Forefather of the Ian clan raised his eyebrows. A human cultivator? Zhou Nua narrated the matter in detail. Heaven, the 7th Forefather of the Ian clan, smiled indifferently and didn't take it to heart. An ant-like cultivator of a low-level race wants to compete with the Tensei people for the inheritance of the Reizeigu people? Destroy that human cultivator and the entire human world. Naturally, there won't be any future troubles. Zhou Nua stopped him. How much of a threat can a mere ant of the human race pose to this disciple? If I can't even surpass that human cultivator, how can I reach the peak? There's no need for the clan to do anything. This disciple will definitely be able to kill him in the later tests. The seventh forefather of the Tensei people nodded. As expected of a genius junior of my race. You have such courage. You should rest for a while. I will arrange for the experts of my race to help you cultivate. After 1,000,000 years, you can pass the test of the third heaven of the Luai's original realm. Thank you, seventh forefather. Nua cupped his fists and bowed. The seventh patriarch of the Tensei people turned into nothingness. Zhou Nua recovered his high and mighty attitude from before and left in embarrassment. Only Zhou Nua's father was left on the altar. With Zhou Nua's character, as long as someone threatens his interests, he will not hesitate to use any means to get rid of the enemy. How could he let that human cultivator off so easily this time? How could he not be clear about Zhou Nua's character? One after pondering for a while, Zhou Nua's father's eyes flashed with fierce killing intent. In order to curry favor with the seventh ancestor, Zhou Nua naturally doesn't want the clan to personally kill that human cultivator. Since that's the case, I'll help him get rid of that person. It can be considered as helping Zhou Nua obtain the Thunder Lake original realm. When the time comes, I'll definitely be rewarded. Although I don't know the identity and appearance of that human cultivator, since he possesses the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan, it shouldn't be difficult to find out who he is. After thinking for a while, Zhou Nua's father shouted at one of his subordinates, "Have Daozu from the human world come and see this king immediately." Whoosh! Sufang's figure appeared in an independent space-time. He focused his gaze. Immediately, the sky was empty, as if he had entered a chaotic space where there was nothing. In the space-time, there were 9 lotus-shaped floating platforms with different colors. They were arranged in a row in front of Su Fang all the way to the top. The last altar floated at the highest point of the space-time. The test of the fourth heaven should only have 9 stages. I don't know what the test is about. That realm spirit seems so mysterious. Su Fang was secretly vigilant and didn't dare to be careless. Being able to successfully pass 2 tests in a row was more or less due to luck. The next test of the fourth heaven obviously wouldn't be so lucky. Su Fang didn't expect to pass this test in one go. However, he had to figure out the trick and prepare for the next test. The realm spirit's voice sounded. The fourth heaven is called 9 Lotus Ascension to Heaven. It tests one's control of the great Tao and the use of one's strength. Every lotus platform will condense an opponent to fight with you according to your strength and the great Tao you cultivate. If you defeat your opponent and pass 9 lotus platforms, you can pass the fourth heaven. Su Fang said, "So it's a test of strength." The realm spirit quickly denied, "It's not just strength. At the same time, it's also a chance for you. As for how much chance you can get, it depends on your own foundation and your ability. Let's begin. I hope you can gain something this time. The next time you come to the fourth heaven, you can pass it in one go." The realm spirit obviously didn't think that Su Fang could pass the test of the fourth heaven, so he didn't reveal too much information about the fourth heaven. Su Fang leaped onto the first lotus platform and entered an empty space. He was a little nervous. Then, Su Fang realized that he couldn't use his Xian Bao, his physical body, the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, and the strength of his subordinate. They were all sealed by an invisible force. Who knew? Su Fang waited for half an hour, but no opponent appeared. He couldn't help but feel surprised and shocked. Strange. It's really strange. Human kid, let me see what kind of great Tao you cultivate. Why does the Thunder Lake original realm need to use the origin power to condense an opponent for you? The realm spirit's voice was full of surprise. Then, he appeared in front of Su Fang. Su Fang used the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra Heart Sutra. A wave of primordial aura gushed out from the Tao Palace. The realm spirit was enlightened. "I see. I didn't expect that a human cultivator like you would cultivate the supreme heavenly Tao. You can trace the heavenly Tao's true essence and origin. No wonder you need to use the origin power of the Thunder Lake original realm to create an opponent for you. The opponent in the fourth heaven was created based on the strength and great Tao of the person being tested. For example, if one cultivated the great Tao of Earth, they would automatically use the power of Earth and Taoist rhymes to create an opponent to fight with the person being tested. But the Thunder Lake original realm created by the experts of the Reizeigu people was so wonderful. At the same time, it also showed how powerful the Reizeigu people were. They had mastered various great Daos and thousands of Daos. Who knew that he would encounter Su Fang, the challenger who cultivated the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra, which was the supreme heavenly Tao. Moreover, he had mastered the primordial aura. Naturally, the opponent he created would need to use the origin power. This time, the Thunder Lake original realm will suffer a great loss. You, human kid, have picked up a great bargain. However, it will be more difficult for you to pass than that Tensei people kid. Kid, I wish you good luck. The realm spirit raised his eyebrows and left embarrassedly. Picked up a bargain? Su Fang was confused. He didn't understand, but he felt that it was awesome. About half an hour later, a divine light flashed in front of him. A wave of chaotic aura gushed out. It was the primordial aura that Su Fang was familiar with. Hong. After the primordial aura surged, it quickly transformed into a human-shaped shadow. Its facial features were a little blurry. It looked a little similar to Su Fang. It didn't have any aura of life. From the energy waves, one could tell that its cultivation was at the peak of the upper divine saint realm. Su. As soon as the shadow appeared, it immediately charged toward Su Fang. Break. Su Fang pointed his finger at the shadow. It turned into a chaotic light wheel. It quickly extended and turned into the primordial heavenly wheel. Boom! After an earth-shattering collision, the shadow was shattered. The surrounding space-time also began to collapse and turn into nothingness. Su Fang reappeared on the first lotus platform. So easy? Su Fang thought that there would be a fierce battle. He didn't expect to kill his first opponent so easily and pass the first stage. Just as Su Fang was about to fly toward the second lotus platform, a wave of primordial aura suddenly gushed out from the surroundings. It instantly seeped into the Tao Palace. Sha! Over there! The wave of primordial aura merged with the primordial aura in Su Fang's Tao Palace, causing Su Fang's primordial aura to become purer and more majestic. It also caused Su Fang's Tao Palace to begin to change. It caused Su Fang's Tao Palace to begin to boil. The entire Tao Palace was filled with an aura of origin. No wonder the realm spirit said that the fourth heaven was a test and also a fortune. It turns out that killing the opponent can obtain the opponent's energy. Since I control the primordial aura, the opponent in the Luai's original realm is also condensed from the primordial aura. After killing the opponent, I will obtain this aura of origin. Su Fang was shocked. Fang was pleasantly surprised. This was an unexpected gain. Wait. The Tao Palace calmed down. Su Fang sensed it and found that not only had the primordial aura in the Tao Palace become more shocking, but his cultivation had also improved by a lot. He seemed to have gained some more vague insight. Take. Su Fang leaped onto the second lotus platform. This time, he didn't have to wait long. As soon as he entered the space of the second lotus platform, a wave of primordial aura gushed out and quickly condensed into a human figure. It was exactly the same as the opponent in the first stage, but in reality it was very different. Its aura was 10 times more powerful than the first stage. Su Fang pulled himself together and used the shapeless heavenly wheels. He used the primordial aura to fight with the opponent and used 6 hours to kill him. The energy absorbed this time caused Su Fang's Tao Palace to undergo another shocking change. Su Fang's Tao Palace and the insides of his physical body began to stir. There were signs that he was about to become a Daozu. This, Su Fang's losses were also shocking. After passing 2 stages in the 4th heaven, the amount of primordial aura I obtained is equivalent to 1,000,000 years of cultivation and countless resources. Fortune, this is indeed a great fortune. Su Fang's eyes became incomparably hale and hearty. He directly stepped onto the 3rd lotus platform. The opponent this time wasn't as easy. Su Fang finally used all his skills and used my master's 10 directions seal to kill him. The 4th lotus platform is probably my limit, but I have to try no matter what. Su Fang stepped onto the 4th lotus platform. This time, it was still an opponent of the same height. However, the attack contained the true meaning of the laws of the origin of the great Tao. It was like an unstoppable torrent. The boundary created by Su Fang's master's 10 directions seal was instantly destroyed. Couldn't even withstand a single blow. He became so much stronger all of a sudden. Su Fang was shocked and surprised. Before he was engulfed by the terrifying attack, a divine power wrapped around Su Fang and moved him out of the 4th heaven. Chapter 3208. After Su Fang failed the 9 lotus ascension in the 4th heaven, he was teleported to the inner space of the 3rd heaven. Realm Spirit's figure appeared and looked at Su Fang. Human cultivator, you passed the 3rd heaven by sheer luck. Now you know how difficult the Luai's original realms test is, right? Impressive indeed. Su Fang nodded. Fang had to admit that the 4th heaven's test was far beyond his expectations. He was confident that with his strength, he could kill an ordinary Daozu even without the help of Xian Bao or other external forces. He could not find an opponent below the Daozu. He could just crush them. Thinking. The opponents he met before reaching the 4th heaven were also at the peak of the upper Dao Saint level, but their strength was so shocking. They surpassed all the human and foreign Dao Saints he had met, including the Daozu realm. The opponents he met on the 4th lotus platform were already so powerful. The ones after that would be even more shocking and completely exceed his limit. Realm Spirit raised his white eyebrows and snorted. The difficulty is indeed high. It is wishful thinking to become the master of the Luai's original realm without the ability to defy the heavens. The Luai's original realm would not set a test that cannot be passed. Your cultivation is still not enough. Please enlighten me, Lord Realm Spirit, Su Fang said. Fang cupped his fists politely to Realm Spirit. Realm Spirit stroked his white beard and nodded. This king has spent countless years in the Thunderlock Origin realm. I also hope that the Thunderlock Origin realm can find a master as soon as possible. Then, this king will no longer be lonely. Now that 2 people have come, and you are much more pleasing to the eye than that arrogant brat from the Eternal Clan, there is no harm in giving you some pointers within the rules. Fang was overjoyed. Thank you, Lord Realm Spirit. Realm Spirit said slowly, your Dao heart, cultivation level, and strength are also quite extraordinary compared to the Reizegu people. However, you are still a human. Your knowledge is too shallow. You are like a beggar guarding a mountain of gold. Su Fang touched the tip of his nose. Do you think I am wrong? I do not dare. Please continue, Lord Realm Spirit. Spirit snorted and continued. You're at a very high level of cultivation, but you have the Tao but no Dharma. Su Fang frowned. There is Tao, but there is no Dharma? You cultivate the supreme heavenly Tao. Therefore, you have unlimited possibilities and unlimited potential. You possess supreme strength. However, you have only scratched the surface. Don't be unconvinced. Let me ask you, where did your divine abilities come from? They all came from other inheritances and did not come from your great Tao. Thus, their power is limited, and it is even more difficult for you to bring out your strength to the limit. Remember, you are the heavenly Tao, and the heavenly Tao is you. The heavenly Tao encompasses everything, so why should you be restricted by your predecessors? In fact, you don't have to adhere to the heavenly Tao. So long as you grasp the profundities of the heaven Tao, You'll be able to deduce a myriad of techniques and establish a myriad of laws, and it'll be a peerless great divine ability at your fingertips. As for those divine abilities you've mastered before, forget them all. I can only say so much to you. You'll have to slowly comprehend them yourself. Perhaps during the great calamity of the Daozu, you'll be able to comprehend them when you're undergoing the baptism of the source of the Tao in the gate of the source of the Tao. You'll only be able to pass the test of the fourth heaven if you fully comprehend them. If you don't, you'll naturally die in the fourth heaven. Even if you advance to the Daozu, it'll still be difficult for you to pass. Go. I'll see your performance again 1,000,000 years later. Don't make me waste my breath on you for nothing. Realm Spirit waved his hand, and a thunderbolt surged out from Su Fang's surroundings with a boom. It wrapped around him, and he disappeared from the original realm of the Thunder Lake without a trace. Swish, 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 swish. Suddenly, there was a thunderous sound, and a gate of heaven condensed from thunderbolts appeared out of thin air. Then, Su Fang's figure rolled out from the gate of heaven. Then, the gate of heaven quickly turned from solid to nothingness and disappeared from the chaos. Sua divine aura surged out from Su Fang's body, and he stabilized his body. Then, he sat down cross-legged in the chaos. Zai. He pondered over Realm Spirit's words and vaguely understood something, but he couldn't grasp it. Swish. However, Su Fang suddenly sensed something in his heart. I'll break through to the Daozu first, then think about the fourth heaven of the Thunder Lake original realm. Su Fang looked up, his eyes filled with anticipation, as well as incomparable persistence and determination. It turned out that he suddenly sensed a message from the unseen world. His Daozu tribulation would descend in a few years. He was about to advance to the Daozu. His Tao heart and realm had long been sufficient. In the original realm of the Thunder Lake, the accumulation of energy in his physical body and Tao palace had also reached the limit of a Tao saint. Water overflowed. As soon as he left the original realm of the Thunder Lake, he was sensed by the heavenly Tao. Naturally, the great Daozu tribulation would descend. Su Fang waved his hand and took out a wooden box. From it, he rolled out a fruit flickering with thunderbolts, the heavenly Tao fruit. Su Fang's eyes revealed hesitation. The heavenly Tao fruit was incomparably precious. This heavenly Tao fruit could nurture a Daozu powerhouse. But Su Fang was confident that the Daozu tribulation wouldn't be able to do anything to him. In this way, the heavenly Tao fruit would be wasted. Just as he was about to put away the heavenly Tao fruit, the longevity lamp suddenly transmitted a message. Master, I suggest you fuse with the heavenly Tao fruit. Su Fang asked in surprise, why? Don't you have confidence in me passing the tribulation? Master, don't underestimate the Daozu tribulation. Once you advance to the Daozu tribulation, it's equivalent to touching upon the most fundamental essence of the great Tao. How can the heavenly tribulation be underestimated? Master, think about it. The human race has many peak Tao saints, but the number of Daozu powerhouses can be counted on one hand. Most of them perish in the tribulation. This shows how powerful the Daozu tribulation is. Besides, Master cultivates the heavenly Tao. The Daozu tribulation will definitely be 10 times or 100 times more powerful than other cultivators. Also, the heavenly Tao fruit will be of great benefit to Master. It will even affect Master's future achievements. The words of the longevity lamp original spirit made Su Fang's expression turn grave. Can't the heavenly Tao fruit help cultivators reach peak Tao saint and resolve the Daozu tribulation? It seems Master still doesn't understand the power of the heavenly Tao fruit. No wonder, Master, you're a human and have never heard of it before. Even many powerhouses of other races don't know the use of the heavenly Tao fruit. Why don't you tell me about it? The Daozu tribulation is different from other tribulations. When the tribulation descends, the gate of the Tao source will appear. You must shatter the heavenly tribulation and blast open the gate of the Tao Source to receive the baptism of the heavenly Tao. Of course I know about the gate of the Tao Source and the baptism of the Tao Source, but what does this have to do with the heavenly Tao fruit? When a cultivator enters the Daozu realm, they can touch upon the source of the heavenly Tao and come into contact with the true essence of cultivation. Cross. The Daozu tribulation requires one to withstand the heavenly tribulation, break the barrier, receive the baptism of the Tao Source, and ascend. The so-called gate of the Tao Source was the barrier to entering the heavenly Tao's origin. The heavenly Tao fruit's use is not only to help master resist the heavenly tribulation, but also to absorb more of the Tao Source's aura and comprehend more of the heavenly Tao's true essence. I see. I didn't expect the heavenly Tao fruit to have such a heaven-defying use. If it weren't for your reminder, I would have missed a great opportunity. Su Fang was surprised and delighted by the spirit's words. Elder, the original soul of the life lamp, continued, I don't know how many gates of the origin of the Tao will descend in Master's Tao ancestor tribulation. How many gates of the Tao Source? I've asked Dongxuan's master before. Isn't the Daozu tribulation usually a gate of the Tao Source? That's because the Tao foundation of you human cultivators is too shallow. I heard the former master say once that 8 gates of the Tao Source appeared when he was transcending the Daozu tribulation. Therefore, the baptism of the Tao Source he received was extremely shocking. When he had just ascended to the Daozu realm, he could kill the Daozu realm's pinnacle. Later, he successfully surpassed the Daozu realm and became an eternal existence. Master cultivates the heavenly Tao, so he has at least 3 gates of the Tao Source, surpassing other human cultivators. 3 gates of the Tao Source? That's a lot more than other human Daozu realms. I hope so. Su Fang was also filled with anticipation as to how many gates of the Tao Source would appear. Swoosh! A blood vine flashed out of Su Fang's body and sucked the heavenly Tao fruit into his body, then seeped into the Tao fruit. First, a pure and majestic aura instantly spread throughout his body and poured into the Tao palace. The energy he had consumed in the Thunder Lake original realm was recovering at an astonishing speed. It wouldn't take long for him to return to his peak state. But, at this moment, the ethereal heavenly Tao became incomparably clear, making Su Fang feel as if his entire being had merged with the heavenly Tao. But, Su Fang closed his eyes and quietly waited for the arrival of the Daozu tribulation. For the next few years, he didn't need to cultivate anything. He only needed to adjust his Tao heart to a calm state. About 5 years, an astonishing pressure suddenly appeared above Su Fang. Everything in the surroundings seemed to have solidified. The chaos, which was originally empty, was like a mirror that was covered in layers of mist. Suddenly, the mist was pushed away by an invisible hand. Startled, the tribulation cloud surged out, taking the shape of a funnel. One end of the funnel was aimed at Su Fang, like a monster opening its mouth toward Su Fang. The other end of the funnel led to the depths of the endless chaos, leading straight to the ethereal source of the heavenly Tao. Boom! Rumble! Whoosh! Whoosh! The dull sound of thunder came from the tribulation cloud. There was also the howling of wild winds and the sound of burning flames, causing Su Fang's Tao heart to tremble. Through the tribulation lightning, tribulation fire, and tribulation wind, one could vaguely make out a crimson door within the funnel-shaped tribulation cloud. It exuded an ancient aura of the great Tao, as if it was a door that led to the highest depths of the heavenly Tao. Behind it hid the infinite mysteries of the heavenly Tao. Once I break through that door, I will be the supreme Daozu, Su Fang shouted. His eyes flashed with a hearty light. He withstood the pressure and flew toward the tribulation cloud. The pressure was truly astonishing. It contained the supreme will of the heavenly Tao. The closer one got to the tribulation cloud, the more shocking the pressure was. Ordinary Tao saints wouldn't even be able to enter the tribulation cloud before their will crumbled and their Tao heart shattered. However, for Su Fang, he was only shackled, and the effect was not that great. Chapter 3209. Whoosh! A splendidly decorated treasured ship flew out, stirring up a primal chaos turbulence. Whoosh! 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 Thousands of Tensei people flew out from the treasured ship, led by a middle-aged man with a golden crown on his head. He was Zhou Nua's father. Everyone, many Tensei people looked into the distance, and a spiral tribulation cloud appeared in their eyes. It was the scene of Su Fang's tribulation. Zhou Nua's father clicked his tongue. What a coincidence! Someone is actually undergoing the Daozu tribulation in the depths of the primal chaos. Looking at the scale and aura of the tribulation cloud, this person will definitely be a powerful Daozu once he succeeds. If young Prince Zhou Nua is undergoing the Daozu tribulation, his reputation will be 1,000 times greater than this. The person who spoke was an old man from the human race behind Zhou Nua's father. He had a flattering smile on his face, and his tone was full of flattery. This old man's cultivation was astonishing. He was a Daozu expert. There were very few Tao ancestors among the cultivators of the human clan, and all of them were peerless powerhouses who were awe-inspiring. This old man was no exception. He was the Tao ancestor of the Li clan, one of the 5 great divine clans of the central profound divine realm. However, the 5 great clans had submitted to the Tensei people and became the vassal forces of the Tensei people. The great Daozu expert had to put down his former dignity and was like a dog wagging its tail. My son, Zhou Nua, is a peerless expert who will achieve eternal immortality in the future. How can his tribulation be compared to an ordinary one? Zhou Nua's father smiled proudly. Li Clan Daozu nodded repeatedly. Of course. Zhou Nua's father turned to a Tensei people expert beside him and said, "Since we've encountered this, it's the fortune of the cultivator undergoing the tribulation. I'll have to trouble Lord Zeus. If that cultivator succeeds, take him as a gift for my son's successful return from the Luai's original realm." Yes, Duke. The Tensei people expert nodded in agreement. Here this man looked to be in his early 40s. His face was sallow, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. His aura was much stronger than that of the Li clan's Daozu. He was also a Daozu expert. Although he was not at the peak, he was still a powerful Daozu. You Father Nua continued, let's go. That human ant named Su Fang must have returned to the human world from the Luai's original realm. We have to hurry up and get rid of him. The purpose of their trip was precisely to go to Su Fang. Zhou Nua had encountered Su Fang in the Luai's original realm. Although he didn't know Su Fang's identity, there was no other human cultivator besides Su Fang who possessed the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan. Yunua's father quickly figured out Su Fang's identity among the 5 divine clans. Without hesitation, he led the Tensei people to the human world. However, he never would have thought that the person he was looking for was currently undergoing the Daozu tribulation. Yunua's father led the Tensei people into the space inside the treasure ship. Then, the treasure ship broke through the shackles and sailed into the chaos, disappearing without a trace. The middle-aged Tensei people named Zeus C stayed behind and stared at the tribulation clouds in the distance. He was waiting for the tribulation to end so that he could go over and suppress that person directly. Crack! Whoosh! 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 As soon as Su Fang stepped into the tribulation clouds, streaks of tribulation lightning that were as thick as an arm and exuded a terrifying aura of destruction shot out from the surrounding tribulation clouds, intending to kill Su Fang. There was also a monstrous tribulation fire that enveloped Su Fang in an instant, intending to incinerate everything in Su Fang. In addition to the tribulation lightning and tribulation fire, there was also a terrifying tribulation wind that was as sharp as a knife and as fine as a needle. The tribulation lightning, tribulation fire, and tribulation wind didn't just attack the physical body. They also attacked the Tao Palace, the Tao Heart, and the Origin Soul. From the looks of it, they wouldn't stop until Su Fang was killed. It's just an ordinary Daozu's heavenly tribulation. How can it do anything to Su Fang? Su Fang displayed the loftiness of a peerless overlord. He released his thoughts and condensed a heavenly wheel. The aggressive heavenly tribulation was shattered before it could come within 100 feet of Su Fang. Su Fang was only one level away from attaining the Tao Heart. With the longevity celestial body, his soul was immortal and indestructible. The will and soul attacks contained in the three tribulations couldn't shake Su Fang's Tao Heart and soul in the slightest. In the surging tide of the three tribulations, Su Fang advanced towards the gate of the source of the Tao. Although the tribulation couldn't hurt him at all, it was still extremely difficult for him to get close to the gate of the Tao. After about an hour, Su Fang finally reached the gate of the source of the Tao. The Crimson Gate was 100 feet tall and more than 10 feet wide. The gate was covered with mysterious and abstruse divine runes, and an ancient aura of the great Tao rushed out. Behind the gate is the supreme origin of the great Tao. After receiving the baptism of the origin of the great Tao, I will be a peerless Daozu from now on. The Daozu tribulation seemed so dangerous, but it was actually very easy for Su Fang, which surprised Su Fangda. Crack, crack, boom, rumble. The tribulation lightning, tribulation fire, and tribulation wind became even more ferocious. It seemed that they were going to make a last stand before Su Fang opened the gate of the source of the Tao. They were going to blast Su Fang to death outside the gate of the source of the Tao. Gate of the source of the Tao, open! Su Fang let out a domineering roar, gathered his physical strength, and punched the Crimson Gate. Boom! Rumble! The gate slowly opened, and a dazzling golden light radiated from inside the gate. The heavenly tribulation behind Su Fang instantly stopped rolling. Gold! The light dissipated immediately, and Su Fang opened his eyes. It was beyond Su Fang's expectations, but he had expected that the gate of the source of the Tao would not be the source of the great Tao. There were still terrifying tribulation clouds around him, and the aura was several times more astonishing than before. Thunder surged, tribulation fire blazed, and tribulation wind whistled. In the depths of the tribulation clouds, there was another gate of the source of the Tao. However, it was not red but orange, and the aura of the great Tao was even more astonishing. The second gate of the source of the Tao? The longevity lamp original spirit's guess was right. I cultivate the supreme heavenly Tao. There is more than one gate of the source of the Tao that appeared in the Daozu tribulation. Su Fang's eyes flashed with a hale and hearty divine light, and he once again charged into the depths of the tribulation clouds. The Tensei people Daozu expert named Zeus saw the golden light radiating from the tribulation clouds from afar, and knew that Su Fang had blasted open the gate of the source of the Tao. Therefore, he did not wait any longer and teleported over. He passed through the Daozu tribulation so easily. This person is indeed not an ordinary Daozu. The gate of the source of the Tao has already been opened, but why hasn't the tribulation clouds dispersed? Although the Tensei people Daozu's strength was astonishing, he could not sense through the tribulation cloud. He was not surprised when he saw that the tribulation clouds had not dispersed. Then, he understood. So this person's Daozu tribulation attracted two gates of the source of the Tao. It seems that I have underestimated him. With such potential, he is qualified to be young Prince Zhou Nua's Tao protector. Zeus C did not dare to barge into the tribulation clouds without permission, so he could only wait outside. His eyes that were looking at the depths of the tribulation clouds no longer had the contempt and disdain from before. Instead, they were filled with interest. A cultivator who could attract two gates of the source of the Tao was already quite extraordinary. It had attracted the interest of the Tensei people Daozu expert. Boom! 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 Su Fang used his divine ability to shatter the surging heavenly tribulation along the way, and charged towards the orange gate of the source of the Tao. Although it was several times more powerful than the first gate of the source of the Tao, but to Su Fang, it was still not much of a pressure. Su Fang at this moment, Fang had the strength to crush an ordinary Daozu. No matter how powerful the tribulation was, it was only at the level of an ordinary Daozu. Naturally, it could not do anything to him. Master, I suggest that you be careful and conserve your strength as much as possible. The longevity lamp origin spirit suddenly spoke from within the Tao Palace. Why? Even if there are 3 gates of the source of the Tao, I can easily overcome the tribulation and blast open the gate of the Tao. Ordinary gates of the Tao are gray, but the one that appeared in Master's Daozu tribulation was red and orange. I reckon that Master has attracted more than 3 gates of the Tao. The more gates of the Tao there are, the more benefits one will receive from the baptism of the source of the Tao. Naturally, this is a good thing. Even if 8 Tao source gates appear like your previous master, I still have the ability to blast them open. Su Fang responded domineeringly. Then, he gathered his physical strength again and punched the gate of the source of the Tao. Crack! Crack! God! He knew that this time, it was difficult to blast open the gate of the source of the Tao with his physical strength. He only managed to open the orange gate a little. The next tribulation arrived in an instant. Su Fang's divine light changed slightly. He activated the blood fiend Dharma body and erupted with evil-killing intent and divine power. Only then did the orange gate open with a bang. Another golden light bloomed from behind the gate of the source of the Tao, dispersing the tribulation that was about to engulf Su Fang. Su Fang regained his senses and looked over. As expected, the tribulation clouds were still rolling. Thunder raged, tribulation wind and tribulation fire filled the depths of the tribulation clouds. This yellow gate was vaguely visible. It was the 3rd gate of the source of the Tao. Sensing that the aura of the tribulation was several times more powerful than before, Su Fang's expression became a little solemn. Asha's heart was also filled with anticipation. The more powerful the tribulation was, the more gates of the source of the Tao would appear. It proved that the benefits obtained after the tribulation and the future achievements would be more powerful. I want to see how many gates of the source of the Tao my Daozu tribulation has attracted. Su Fang let out a laugh and rushed into the rolling tribulation. Outside the tribulation clouds, the Tensei people's Daozu powerhouse, Zhu Si, saw the golden light that bloomed after the 2nd gate of the source of the Tao was opened. He was also quite surprised. He revealed a joyful expression. There are actually 3 gates of the source of the Tao. Once this person succeeds, he will be a powerful Daozu. He will be superior to ordinary Daozu. If he is subdued, young Prince Zhou Nua's overall strength will definitely increase by a lot. I hope he doesn't fail the tribulation. If it really doesn't work, I can only lend him a hand. Zhu Si was a little worried that Su Fang would fail the tribulation. The Tensei people would lose a powerful subordinate. He planned to lend a hand at the critical moment. 9 Suns Heavenly Wheel. Massacre Heavenly Wheel. Xianyang Heavenly Wheel. Su Fang used the formless Heavenly Wheel to break through the tribulation. After more than 2 hours, he finally arrived in front of the Yellow Gate. The number of divine runes on the gate was much fewer than the previous 2, but its aura was even more shocking. Su Fang attacked 3 times in a row before he finally blasted open the 3rd gate of the source of the Tao. Behind the 3rd gate of the source of the Tao was the same. In the depths of the terrifying tribulation, there was a green gate. Chapter 32:10. The longevity lamp original spirit's prediction was correct. The Tao source gate that appeared in Su Fang's Daozu tribulation was indeed extraordinary. There were actually 4 Tao source gates. Looking at the green Tao source gate in the depths of the heavenly tribulation, Su Fang's eyes flickered. More Dao source gates meant that the heavenly tribulation was more powerful. At the same time, it also meant that the ethereal heavenly Dao acknowledged Su Fang. His future potential far exceeded that of an ordinary Daozu. Long the longevity lamp original spirit exclaimed, "Master, I reckon that you are the cultivator who attracted the most Dao source gates in human history. Even that divine Lord of 10 directions is inferior to you." Divine Lord of 10 directions? If he hadn't been hunted down by the experts of the human race and been forced to split into 3 different individuals, his tribulation as a complete divine master of 10 directions might have been even more shocking than mine. Su Fang still believed that he was inferior to divine Lord of 10 directions. "Master, don't belittle yourself. Even divine Lord of 10 directions didn't cultivate an immortal Dao heart like you did, nor did he have a physical body that surpassed human limit. He also didn't have a primordial heavenly treasure like immortality." "That's true." Great confidence surged in Fang's heart. 10 directions. Even if divine Lord of 10 directions hadn't split himself, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate an immortal Dao heart. His physical body wasn't as heaven-defying as Su Fang's, surpassing the limits of human cultivators. His Daozu tribulation naturally wouldn't be as shocking as Su Fang's. Su Fang had what divine Lord of 10 directions had back then, but what Su Fang had now, divine Lord of 10 directions didn't. From this, it could be seen that Su Fang's future achievements wouldn't be any weaker than divine Lord of 10 directions. Next, Su Fang swept through everything in his path, fighting against the heavenly tribulation that exuded world-destroying heavenly might. This time, Su Fang spent half a day and expended a lot of energy to reach the 4th Dao Source Gate with great difficulty. "I wonder if the 4th level of the Dao Source Gate will be my limit?" Su asked. Fang focused his thoughts and attacked the Dao Source Gate. The green Dao Source Gate was finally opened. In the depths of the heavenly tribulation, there was another Dao Source Gate. The 5th Gate. The 5th Dao Source Gate. "Master, who would have thought that 5 Dao Source Gates would appear in your Dao ancestor heavenly tribulation?" the longevity lamp's soul said in a shocked voice. "Master, I didn't expect that 5 Dao Source Gates would appear in your Dao ancestor heavenly tribulation. I never expected that the cultivators of the human race would actually be able to draw over 5 gates of the Dao Source. Nothing is impossible. I've already told you that I, Su Fang, am not an ordinary person. The calamity of Daozu this time is enough to prove that I'm not lying. Su Fang's ambition is not only the powerful Daozu, but also the highest peak of the great Dao. What does a mere 5 gates of the Dao Source amount to?" With great confidence and lofty ambitions, he charged towards the 5th Dao Source Gate. Tribulation beyond the clouds. That Zusi of the Tensei people stared fixedly at the tribulation clouds. His eyes were filled with shock and even a hint of jealousy. Heavens! The Aeon clan was one of the higher clans of the Chaos. Their talents and potential far surpassed that of ordinary clans. Therefore, the Daozu of the Tensei people were much more powerful than the Daozu of ordinary clans. Zusi was a powerful Daozu of the Tensei people. Even among the Tensei people, he was a renowned figure. When he first attacked the Daozu, a total of 4 Dao Source Gates appeared in his tribulation. Later on, he became a powerful Daozu expert. Now, a cultivator from an unknown clan had also summoned 4 Dao Source Gates in the Daozu tribulation. Moreover, it didn't look like it was going to stop anytime soon. How could Zusi not be shocked and envious? "If you know what's good for you and obediently submit, I will leave you a way out. If you don't know what's good for you, Zusi looked at the tribulation clouds, his eyes cold and gloomy. The heavenly tribulation Su Fang encountered on the way to the 5th level of the door of the Dao quintessence seemed to possess a similar might, yet actually, the heavenly tribulation contained a supreme principle of annihilation and the will of the heavens that couldn't be defied. So, its might was a few times more formidable than the fourth level of the door of the Tao quintessence. Su Fang had paid a heavy price for this. Apart from the primordial qi, half of the Tao Palace's energy had been consumed. Fortunately, he wasn't injured. Boom! Su Fang activated the primordial wheel and blasted the fifth Tao source gate open. It was still a glaring golden light that rushed toward them. To Su Fang's surprise, the Tao source didn't appear. Instead, there was an even more terrifying tribulation, and the sixth Tao source gate in the depths of the tribulation. The heavenly tribulation here was even more frightening. The heavenly Tao's supreme truth contained within the heavenly tribulation that could destroy everything, causing the might of the heavenly tribulation to be several times stronger. Fortunately, Su Fang's soul and Tao heart were difficult to shake, otherwise, he would definitely be injured. The sixth Tao source gate should be the limit. Su Fang opened the sixth Tao source gate. He never expected to see the same thing as before. There was a seventh Tao source gate waiting for him. The longevity lamp origin spirit exclaimed, "Master, it seems your potential can reach the heights of this subordinate's former master. You'll definitely become an eternal immortal in the future. It's better to live in the present and think about how to survive the Daozu tribulation. If I can't survive this tribulation, everything in the future will be a fantasy." Su Fang smiled wryly. The next tribulation wouldn't be so easy to survive. Also fortunately, the longevity lamp origin spirit had allowed Su Fang to fuse with the heavenly Tao fruit. Otherwise, Su Fang would have stopped here. It was hard to say whether or not he could open the seventh Tao source gate. Outside the tribulation clouds, the Tensei people's expert Zusi was dumbfounded. Besides disbelief, there was also intense jealousy in his eyes. This person can't be allowed to live. With his potential, the Tensei people won't be able to subdue him. Even if they can, there won't be a place for me under the young prince's command in the future. Zusi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He was waiting for Su Fang to finish his tribulation so that he could kill Su Fang in one fell swoop. Boom, boom, boom. Bolts of tribulation lightning, fire, and wind were no longer in the form of thunder, fire, or wind. Instead, they transformed into lifelike divine dragons. They roared ferociously with world-destroying thunderous roars. The winds howled and the flames spewed out of their mouths as they attacked Su Fang. Su Fang used the formless heavenly wheel to form layers of defense around him. However, it couldn't stop the attacks of the tribulation. The layers of defense shattered. "Break for me!" Su Fang activated the cool saber monarch with all his strength. The cold, sharp saber light flashed out and shattered the bolts of tribulation lightning. However, Su Fang took the opportunity to break free from the shackles. When the tribulation was condensing again, he used the heavenly wheel to shatter the tribulation. After a day, he finally reached the seventh gate of heaven. Gate of the source of the Tao, open. Su Fang activated the blood-evil Dharma body in the state of the evil court. The sound of the heavenly way burst out from the heart of the slayer and shook open the seventh gate of heaven. "There really is an eighth gate of heaven!" Su Fang exclaimed. Fang Jin entered the seventh gate of heaven. Although he had expected it, the scene he saw still made him feel helpless and surprised. The tribulation was rolling. In the depths of the endless tribulation, there was a white jade gate. It was the eighth gate of the source of the Tao. The longevity lamp's shocked voice sounded in Su Fang's Taoist palace. "Master is really incredible. There really is an eighth gate of the source of the Tao. In the future, you will definitely reach the height of my former master." Su Fang grabbed hundreds of king-grade elixirs and swallowed them in one breath. He said with a serious expression, "It will be very difficult to pass through the eighth gate of the source of the Tao." There was no way. Su Fang could not turn back now. Even if he knew it was a dead end, he had to go on. The primordial qi rolled out from his body and turned into a barrier that enveloped Su Fang. Then, Su Fang rushed forward recklessly. He could no longer fight against the tribulation. He only wanted to pass through the tribulation as soon as possible and reach the 8th gate of heaven. Roar! Roar! Bolts of heavenly thunder rolled over and quickly transformed into divine dragons. The sound of thunder also turned into a dragon's roar that caused the world to change color. The barrier around Su Fang shook and began to shatter layer by layer. The will of the heavenly way in the tribulation and the invisible tribulation wind that could wipe out souls could not be stopped by the barrier. They rushed into Su Fang's body. Boom! 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 Under the attack of the will of the heavenly way, Su Fang's Tao heart began to waver. However, as an obsession surged from the depths of his Tao heart, Su Fang's Tao heart became firm again. My heart is like the heavens, containing everything. The will of the heavenly way is also contained by my heart, but it cannot be shaken. Su Fang's perfect state of mind played an important role at this moment. It made it difficult for the will of the heavenly way to destroy his will. Whoosh! 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 The wind of tribulation seeped into Su Fang's body. An illusory will of the heavenly way wanted to blow Su Fang's soul origin away from his body. However, Su Fang had fused with the longevity lamp and cultivated the longevity celestial body. The wind of tribulation could not shake the primordial heavenly treasure. No matter how the wind of tribulation blew, it could only make the longevity lamp flutter. It could not extinguish the longevity lamp. However, Su Fang was also trapped in the vast tribulation and could not move. He could only move forward step by step. The situation became dangerous for him. Tribulation outside the clouds. The Tensei people Daozu saw the dazzling golden light released when the 7th gate of the origin of the Tao was opened. In an instant, it was as if there were 10,000 shocking heavenly thunders in his head. He turned into an ice sculpture. The 7th gate of the origin of the Tao. This cultivator is heaven-defying. Zhu Si was shocked and fear surged in his heart. Even among the Tensei people, Daozu only had one person who had the 7th gate of the Tensei people. He later became the number 1 immortal realm expert among the Tensei people. However, the great tribulation in the tribulation clouds showed no signs of ending. It was possible that the 8th gate of the Tao would appear again. Such as how could the Tensei people Daozu not be shocked and in awe of this heaven-defying feat? The 8th gate of the Tao. This person is indeed heaven-defying. In the future, he will definitely be a peerless existence that will make even the immortals of my race tremble in fear. Since I was able to meet this person, it proves that it is my fortuitous encounter. It is my good fortune. Chapter 32:11. Reaching the peak of Daozu is already my limit. Although I have endless lifespan, there will be a time when my lifespan comes to an end. Moreover, I am from a branch family of the Tensei people. Although I have some status among the Tensei people, I will always be below others. If I surpass Daozu and become an immortal, I will also be an ancestor of the Tensei people. I will have the same lifespan as the heavenly Tao. At the same time, I will also have supreme authority among the Tensei people. If I kill that cultivator when he is undergoing the baptism of the source of the Tao, I can seize the source of the Tao and use a forbidden technique to completely change my talent and potential. This way, I will have the possibility of becoming an immortal. The Tensei people's Daozu expert, Zhou Siyen, had a crazy idea in his mind. He actually planned to kill Su Fang when he was undergoing the baptism of the source of the Tao and seize Su Fang's good fortune to change his cultivation talent. One had to say that he was bold, crazy, and arrogant. Whoosh! Zhou Si took a step forward. Although he didn't seem to be fast, in fact, the aura of the Tao of time surged around him, making the distance of space meaningless to him. In an instant, he arrived in the tribulation clouds. After Su Fang opened the gate of the source of the Tao, the heavenly tribulation outside the gate of the source of the Tao disappeared. Therefore, it didn't pose any threat to Zhou Si. Zhou Si's figure floated through the layers of gates of the Tao and arrived outside the 8th gate of the source of the Tao where Su Fang was fighting against the heavenly tribulation. Seeing Su Fang being attacked by the divine dragons formed by the heavenly tribulation, Zhou Si raised his eyebrows. His eyes revealed a look of disbelief. A human cultivator? And this person is none other than the human cultivator that the county king is looking for. Su Fang. Nua's father had obtained Su Fang's portrait from the cultivators of the 5 divine races. Naturally, it wasn't strange that Zhou Si could recognize Su Fang at a glance. Zhou Si. What shocked and surprised Zhou Si was that Su Fang's Daozu tribulation could actually produce 8 gates of the source of the Tao. In the minds of the alien race experts, the human race was an inferior race. Even if they could produce Daozu experts, their strength was limited. During the Great Tribulation of Daozu, a gate of the source of Tao had barely appeared. Su Fang Ning had actually drawn in 8 Tao source gates, completely overturning Zeus priest's understanding of human cultivators. Despite his shock, Zhou Si looked at Su Fang with a hearty light in his eyes. The Duke went to the human world to look for this human cultivator, but I didn't expect that he would actually transcend his tribulation here. If this isn't my good fortune, then what is? If I kill him, not only will I be able to seize his opportunity to undergo a Tao origin baptism, but I'll also be able to gain Zhou Nua's favor. When the time comes, I'll be able to ask for some treasures and resources, and I might even have a chance to step out of the Daozu. Zhou Nua was full of ambition, but he had no intention of making a move. Here, if he attacked Su Fang now, not only would he not be able to obtain the opportunity to undergo a Tao origin baptism, but he would also get himself into trouble. Even if he was a powerful Daozu, facing such a powerful heavenly tribulation, it would be difficult for him to escape calmly. He can't hold on anymore. The human race is useless. They can't even grasp such a good fortune. It seems that I can only lend him a hand. Zhou Nua raised his eyebrows when he saw Su Fang unable to move an inch in the heavenly tribulation. He shouted at Su Fang, "Human cultivator, I can meet you here. It seems that there is some karma between you and me. Seeing that you are so extraordinary, I can't bear to see you die in the heavenly tribulation. I plan to help you pass through this tribulation." Daozu of the Tensei people? Su asked. Fang Ning was concentrating on dealing with the heavenly tribulation. When he heard Zeus priest's voice, he focused his eyes and looked at him. Here, this was the outer realm chaos. It was not too far from the human race's world. It was definitely not a coincidence that he met a powerful Daozu of the Tensei people here. That Daozu of the Tensei people was definitely not here for sightseeing. You want to help me pass through this tribulation? How do you want to help me pass through this tribulation? Su asked. Fang Ning activated more than 10 thoughts. After burning them, he shattered the divine dragons formed by the heavenly tribulation. Then, he replied calmly. Zeus priest continued to transmit his thoughts. That is your Daozu's great tribulation. Naturally, I can't help you. At that time, it will affect me. I happen to have a powerful talisman condensed by a top expert of my race. It is called the Eternal Instant Talisman. It can help you pass through this tribulation. Eternal Instant Talisman? Su Fang's heart was burning. Why? Back in the Reizeigu people's ruins of God, Su Fang used the Eternal Instant Talisman to escape from under the noses of hundreds of thousands of foreign cultivators and snatch the Reizeigu crystal. How could Su Fang not know the power of the Eternal Instant Talisman? The Eternal Instant Talisman in the hands of this powerful Daozu expert was definitely much more powerful than the one he had taken from a Dao saint. Zeus priest continued, "Of course, I won't help you for free. After you pass through this tribulation, you will have to give me a small portion of the Dao Source's power when you undergo the baptism." You can use my Dao Source's baptism power? Su Fang was startled. He immediately understood Zeus priest's intentions, but he did not expose him. Zeus priest said, I have my own secret method to refine your Tao Source's baptism power. Don't worry, I only need a small portion. I can't bear any more than that. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly, of course. It's a deal. Zeus priest revealed a delighted expression. With a flick of his finger, a thought condensed into a xian guang that enveloped a talisman. It slowly floated towards Su Fang. Read. The talisman contained a supreme will of time and heavenly Tao. When the heavenly tribulation bombarded the xian guang, it seemed to experience endless time and quickly exhausted its power. The talisman quickly disappeared. It passed through layers of tribulation lightning and appeared around Su Fang. Su Fang used his divine might to draw it into his hand. It really is a eternal instant talisman, and it's 10 times more powerful than the one I obtained in the ruins of God. Responding to the aura of the talisman, Su Fang's eyes flashed with a hearty light. He did not hesitate to send his magic power into the talisman. A powerful divine might of time swept out in an instant. The terrifying heavenly tribulation also paused for a moment under the might of the eternal instant talisman. Su Fang took hold of the opportunity and teleported to the 8th layer Tao Source door. Boom! Boom! Su Fang directly bombarded the white jade gate with his primordial energy. Receive. After bombarding it a dozen times in a row, Su Fang's primordial energy was consumed at an alarming rate. Finally, the 8th gate was blasted open, releasing endless golden light. Below, the heavenly tribulation sweeping towards him was completely dispersed by the golden light. Just as he was submerged in the golden light, he could not see anything. Suddenly, a will and divine might descended and shackled him. It turned out that Zeus could not wait to make a move. He planned to suppress Su Fang and possess him before entering the 8th gate to receive the baptism of the Tao Source. Oh my! I know! Chi! 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 Just as Zeus shackled Su Fang, blood-red vines flashed out of Su Fang's body, piercing through the shackles around him and tearing them apart. However, the blood-red vines also turned into withered vines under the power of time. Just as he broke free of the shackles and was about to escape, a chaotic power of time enveloped him and pulled him into the shackles of time. As expected of the powerful Daozu of the Tensei people. However, you are delusional if you want to shackle me, Su Fang. As long as I escape into the Tao Source, you won't dare to attack me no matter how powerful you are. Su Fang had long been on guard against the powerful Daozu of the Tensei people. The moment the blood-red vines tore apart the shackles, the power of my lord's 10 directions seal erupted. The mighty power of the 10 directions seal shattered Zeus' power of time. Then, Su Fang's figure flashed out. All of this happened in a flash. Before the golden light released by the 8th gate to the Tao Source had completely dissipated, Su Fang had already escaped from the area enveloped by the golden light. Unexpectedly, what lay behind the 8th gate to the Tao Source was not the Tao Source as Su Fang had imagined. Instead, it was still a vast and terrifying heavenly tribulation. In the deepest part of the tribulation cloud, there was a black gate that was 1,000 feet long. The 9th gate to the Tao Source. No. Thought. Absolutely did not expect. Su Fang. The Daozu Great Tribulation had actually attracted 9 gates to the Tao Source. Long life lamps' shocked voice resounded in Su Fang's mind. The 9th gate to the Tao Source? Heaven-defying, too heaven-defying. Master, you have actually surpassed my previous master. 9 gates to the Tao Source have actually appeared in Daozu's Great Tribulation. Monstrous waves surged in Su Fang's heart. Then, he was both surprised and delighted. No. Obviously, he was more surprised than delighted. Before. He was about to face an even more terrifying heavenly tribulation. There was also a powerful Tensei people behind him. How could Su Fang be delighted? The 9th gate to the Tao Source. What kind of heaven-defying existence is this human cultivator to be able to attract 9 gates to the Tao source? Zhu Si, who was outside the 8th gate to the Tao source, was also extremely shocked when he saw this scene. Then, his eyes began to flicker with luster. I have never heard of 9 gates to the Tao source. If I can seize such a fortune, I will definitely be able to surpass Daozu's limits in the future and become a supreme immortal. Kill. As soon as he appeared in the area overflowing with the power of heavenly tribulation, he was immediately shackled. Then, a voice filled with the majesty of the heavenly Tao and a desolate will suddenly rang out. A figure quickly emerged from the black gate and transformed into a 300-meter-tall golden giant. His eyes were indifferent, as cold as the merciless heavenly Tao. His entire body was covered in golden divine runes, and he emitted a terrifying destructive aura of the heavenly Tao. This, of course, he wasn't a real person. He was a manifestation of heavenly tribulation. Not only was he 10 times more powerful than the divine dragon Su Fang had encountered before, but he also seemed to possess spiritual intelligence. You want to seize Su Fang's fortune? How can I let you do as you wish? Su Fang suddenly turned around and headed straight for the 8th gate. Damn it, he actually didn't attack the 9th gate to the Tao source to escape the heavenly tribulation. Zhu Si was stunned. He never expected Su Fang to make such a move. When faced with heavenly tribulation, one could only face it head-on. Only by defeating it would one have a chance to advance. Who had ever seen someone flee during a tribulation? Face against heavenly tribulation, where could one run? In the end, one would die even faster and more miserably. Chapter 32:12. The Rui heavenly astral wheel suddenly erupted with a distorted divine might that enveloped Zhu Si. Then, it was about to move Zhu Si to the golden giant charging at Su Fang. It turned out that Su Fang's escape was fake. His real intention was to use Zhu Si as a scapegoat. Even if he couldn't resolve the heavenly tribulation, he could at least exhaust most of its power and share some of the pressure on Su Fang. Human cultivator, you're despicable! Zhu Si shouted angrily. He erupted with his will and thoughts to resist the might of the Rui heavenly astral wheel. As expected of the powerful Daozu of the Tensei people, even the Rui heavenly astral wheel couldn't allow Su Fang to teleport him. However, Zhu Si was still dragged into the 8th gate of Tao source. Zhu Si staggered and tried to retreat, but it was already too late. After entering the 8th gate of Tao source, one would be tainted with the aura of the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation had its own consciousness. Zhu Si's appearance was perceived by the heavenly tribulation as an attempt to interfere with it. How could he escape? A figure separated from the golden giant formed by the heavenly tribulation and transformed into 2 identical golden giants that charged at Su Fang and Zhu Si. The aura of the heavenly tribulation of the 2 golden giants weakened significantly. They weren't as strong as the previous one. What a pity! I have no choice but to fight with my life on the line. Su Fang felt a wave of regret. However, it wasn't all for naught. At the very least, the Daozu of the Tensei people had shared a lot of the pressure on him. After retrieving the Rui heavenly astral wheel, Su Fang charged at the incoming golden giant. Boom! Boom! A battle of life and death unfolded in front of the 9th gate of Tao source. No. It was just Su Fang. Just like Su Fang, Zhu Si was caught in a bitter battle. The golden giant's aura was still at the level of an ordinary Daozu. However, every attack of the golden giant contained a supreme principle of the heavenly Tao. Its true strength was definitely comparable to a powerful Daozu. My Daozu's great tribulation is actually at the level of the powerful Daozu. I really don't know if I should be proud or depressed, Su said. Other than the longevity lamp, the violet fate avatar, and the destiny avatar, he had used almost all of his other avatar abilities. Boom! Boom! Su Fang was constantly pushed back by the Golden Giant. If not for his near-immortal Taoist heart and undying soul, even the will of the heavenly way would not be able to suppress him. It would be very difficult for him to escape the fate of being suppressed. My master's 10 directions seal, suppress. Su Fang's Ji corpse, good corpse, and evil corpse all erupted with powerful wills at the same time. Boundless killing intent, an obsession that even the heavenly Tao found difficult to suppress, and a kindness that protected all, combined with the primordial energy, punched out. This punch carried the strongest might of my master's 10-direction seal, and it revealed a supreme principle of sealing and suppressing everything. Its might was truly shocking. Boom! With Su Fang clashed, and the Golden Giant was forced to retreat. The will of the heavenly Tao began to collapse, and its body began to shatter layer by layer. Su activated the 3 heaven-destroying spikes, and they turned into shocking blood spikes that were 1,000 feet long. They pierced the Golden Giant's head, chest, and abdomen respectively. Boom! 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 The Golden Giant formed by the heavenly tribulation finally began to collapse, and it turned into tribulation lightning, tribulation fire, and tribulation wind that swept out wantonly. Su Fang was also at the end of his rope. He absorbed the heaven-destroying spikes into his Taoist palace, and then burned thousands of thoughts to break free of his shackles. In an instant, he teleported to the 9th door of the source of the Tao. 9th door of the source of the Tao, open for me. Su Fang punched the door of the source of the Tao with all his might. Crack! Crack! The black door swayed, and only a crack opened. Damn it! This result greatly exceeded Su Fang's expectations. Whoosh! Just now, the Golden Giant that Su Fang had just shattered actually began to reform its body. Damn it! The 9th door of the source of the Tao is so difficult to open. The heavenly tribulation is also so difficult to deal with. Su Fang gritted his teeth and activated the Rui Heavenly Dipper wheel again. The white Xian Guang flashed, and in an instant, it appeared above the head of the Golden Giant that had not yet fully recovered. The Rui Heavenly Dipper wheel erupted with a distorted divine power. It wrapped around the Golden Giant and directly teleported it away, appearing behind Zhu Si. Cut off the aura of the Heavenly Secret Life shrinking technique. Fang Tianming's avatar used the Heavenly Secret Life shrinking technique to cut off the aura of destiny. The Golden Giant that Su Fang had teleported away quickly reformed its body. It could not sense Su Fang's aura, but it saw Zhu Si. It let out a furious roar and charged toward Zhu Si. Zhu Si had to face 2 Golden Giants that were almost as strong as him at the same time. Moreover, they were the incarnations of the heavenly tribulation. He was in big trouble. Damn human cultivator, what kind of supernatural power did you use? Despicable, you are really despicable. Zhu Si was shocked and angry. He used all of his skills, but it was still difficult for him to resist. He had no choice but to activate an ancient Bel Xian bow. The divine power released by the ancient Bel Xian bow was truly astonishing. It formed a turbulent flow of time around them, trapping the 2 Golden Giants. Although they were less than 3,000 meters away from Zhu Si, it was as if they were separated by endless time and space. They could not threaten Zhu Si at all. With the help of the Xian bow, Zhu Si was finally able to catch his breath. However, the anger in his heart and his desire to kill Su Fang were still monstrous. Then, he had planned to kill Su Fang and seize Su Fang's good fortune, but in the end, he had thrown himself into this mess. How could he not be angry? Su Fang used the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique to conceal his aura, but he could only maintain it for an instant. However, using that instant, he finally broke free from the entanglement of the heavenly tribulation and launched another attack on the black door. Open for me. Su Fang's eyes burned with the flames of madness and determination. This time, he burned his life force and energy to erupt with an attack 10 times more powerful than his own. for after successfully transcending the tribulation, Su Fang had completely thrown caution to the wind. He had no choice but to go all out. If he did not open the ninth gate of the source of the Tao, the heavenly tribulation would arrive in an instant. How could he have the strength to deal with the heavenly tribulation? Boom! Rumble! The black gate of the source of the Tao finally opened slowly. However, it still did not open completely. There was only a gap of more than a foot wide. Su. A sense of despair welled up in Fang's heart. Rumble! One. The golden giant transformed from the heavenly tribulation suddenly collapsed and turned into a rumble of tribulation lightning, tribulation fire, and tribulation wind. It rushed toward Su Fang with a whoosh. I, Su Fang, want to set foot on the supreme peak. Even the heavenly Tao cannot stop me. Su Fang roared and urged the cool saber sovereign to slash at the surging heavenly tribulation. Explode! Su Fang actually detonated the cool saber sovereign. The fierce and cold explosion shattered the heavenly tribulation. Boom! Su Fang burned himself again. His whole body began to burn, and then he crashed directly into the black gate. This time, it was his last struggle. He had to either burn the last of his strength to break open the ninth gate of the source of the Tao, or burn everything. Apart from the longevity lamp's protection, everything else would be reduced to ashes. The unshakable ninth gate of the source of the Tao finally opened with a loud bang. The burning Su Fang rushed into the gate. From the black gate, the color of chaos erupted. The Xian Guang swept through the entire tribulation cloud. The power of the heavenly tribulation in the tribulation cloud began to dissipate, turning into a peaceful aura, and then quickly began to shrink. The golden giant transformed from the heavenly tribulation also began to shatter layer by layer. Soon it disappeared. Xi was repelled by the divine power of the heavenly Tao. In the end, he was forcefully swept out of the tribulation cloud and appeared in the chaotic void. Damn it, I actually couldn't catch that human cultivator and let him open the final gate of the source of the Tao. Xi sensed the injuries on his body. He had lost another incomparably powerful eternal instant talisman. He could not help but grit his teeth. Such a heaven-defying human cultivator who attracted the ninth gate of the source of the Tao will definitely become immortal in the future. If we don't take advantage of his weakened state after the tribulation to kill him, not only me, young Prince Zhou Nua, but also the entire Tensei people will be a great threat. CC looked at the rapidly shrinking tribulation cloud. His eyes shot out a fierce murderous aura. The tribulation cloud rolled and shrank. In the end, it turned into a 1,000-foot-long cocoon. Silkworm. The cocoon exuded an astonishing aura of the great Tao, as if it was nurturing some peerless treasure. Once it broke out of the cocoon, it would definitely shock the world. Inside the cocoon, Su Fang burned himself. His entire body turned into nothingness. Everything was burning and disappearing. Just as Su Fang thought that he was going to die, a peaceful and ancient aura surrounded him like a tide. His body stopped burning, and everything fell into a peaceful state. Su Fang felt as if he had turned into a fetus in his mother's womb. Every cell, soul, and Tao heart in his body fell into a relaxed and peaceful state that he had never experienced before. Is this the baptism of the heavenly Tao? Su Fang was surprised and happy. Then, he started to fall into a drowsy state. Chang. The life lamp suddenly spoke in the Tao Palace. Master, quickly merge the immortal sky heart jade with your Tao heart. Make use of the baptism of the heavenly Tao to cultivate an immortal Tao heart. Su Fang was energized. He quickly gathered his thoughts and sent the immortal sky heart jade to the side of his Tao heart. Chang. This mysterious power naturally caused his Tao heart to merge with the immortal sky heart jade. His Tao heart started to absorb the aura of the immortal sky heart jade. Su Fang's consciousness also started to blur. He fell into a strange state like that of a fetus. Sizzle, sizzle, the aura of the heavenly Tao seeped into Su Fang's body. Not only was there primordial chaos, there was also the supreme heavenly Tao. Like nutrients in a mother's womb, it continuously seeped into and cleansed Su Fang's physical body, Tao palace, Tao heart, and origin soul. Su Fang was in a state of unconsciousness. He was like a universe of his own, encompassing and absorbing everything. Fortunately, Su Fang had heeded the longevity lamp's origin spirit's advice and merged with the heavenly Tao fruit in advance. As a result, Su Fang's ability to absorb the heavenly Tao's origin spirit increased by several times. Su Fang was submerged in the boundless darkness. After some time, as if he had experienced countless reincarnations, or as if he had passed through an instant, he finally regained consciousness. The moment he regained consciousness, it was like the first ray of light had been born in the endless chaos, tearing apart the world of darkness. Crack, crack. Chapter 32:13. Su Fang was like a caterpillar that had struggled painstakingly to break out of its cocoon and transform into a butterfly. Zhou Si stared at the cocoon, his eyes filled with fierce killing intent, as well as anger and regret. He had planned to possess Su Fang and obtain the Tao Source baptism, thus seizing the fortune and hope of surpassing the Daozu. 9. How astonishing would the Tao Source baptism he would receive after opening the gate of the Tao Source would be? Now, it was all gone. Also, how could Zhu Si not be angry when he was the one who was implicated? Heaven! This was how tyrannical the Ian race's experts were. It was only right and proper for them to plunder other cultivators' fortunes. If they couldn't, the other party deserved to die 10,000 deaths. Crack, crack, crack. The cocoon shattered layer by layer, revealing Su Fang's figure. Zhou Si looked over in surprise. Su Fang did not have a single piece of clothing on his body, as if he was a newborn baby. His skin was soft and tender, and his body contained an astonishing vitality that surpassed the limits of the human race and many other powerful races. His aura was empty, and he looked no different from an ordinary person. But it was this ordinariness that caused Zhou Si's heart to palpitate. A thought naturally appeared in Si's mind. The great Tao is the simplest, returning to the natural state. The fear in his heart intensified Zhou Si's killing intent. This person isn't just a peerless figure of the human race. Even among the Tensei people, he's a powerful existence that hasn't appeared in 10,000 eras. He can't be allowed to grow. Su Fang opened his eyes. His gaze was clear and deep, without a trace of impurity, able to contain everything. Seeing the chaotic void around him, Su Fang looked like he'd just woken up. Confusion flashed through his eyes, and then he frowned. Jin. After ascending to the Daozu, his entire being had undergone an astonishing transformation. Many things had appeared in his mind, making Su Fang somewhat uncomfortable. Before Su Fang could get used to it, Zhu Si's cold voice was filled with mockery and killing intent. Human cultivator, you've become a Daozu, and a peerless Daozu with 9 gates of the Tao Source. Aren't you excited? I'm sorry, but everything you have will be killed by me. Su Fang looked at Zhu Si. His eyes were as calm as water as he said, You still haven't left? If you had left earlier, I would have spared your life. After all, you have helped me a lot in overcoming the tribulation. But you dared to stay. That's because you're courting death. You can't blame my Su Fang. Zhu Si sneered disdainfully. Shameless boasting. You've just ascended to the Daozu and your body is weak. Moreover, you've just touched the true essence of the great Tao. I'm a supreme Daozu of the Tensei people, and I've been a Daozu for countless years. You actually want to suppress me? It seems that you've become a little arrogant after ascending to the Daozu. You think you can look down on all experts. Su Fang smiled. Indeed, I don't take you seriously. Zhu Si let out a cold snort and stared at Su Fang. His voice was filled with endless vicissitudes of life. Human cultivator, you are indeed extraordinary. Unfortunately, you have encountered me. Everything is like a flash in the pan. I have created a divine ability called the epiphyllum finger. You can be considered to have good fortune to be able to die under my supreme divine ability. After that, he raised his right hand and pointed his index finger at Su Fang. A divine power instantly enveloped Su Fang. Divine. The divine power contained the ultimate truth of the great Tao. All beautiful things didn't last long. They would disappear in an instant like a flash in the pan. At the same time, it also contained a cold and ruthless will of the great Tao. Daozu experts have touched the true essence of the great Tao and comprehended the truth of the great Tao. The divine ability they cast with the ultimate truth of the great Tao is like the power of the great Tao. This person comes from the Tensei people, and his divine ability is even more amazing. Unfortunately, he's facing me, Su Fang. Su Fang smiled casually. A supreme domineering aura that looked down on everything spontaneously emerged at this moment. Tight. Then, black and white Xian Guang shot out from his eyes. A kind of great Tao of yin and yang coexisted and strengthened each other erupted with a loud bang. The great Tao of heaven released by Su Fang was somewhat blurry. It was obvious that he had just ascended to the Daozu and had touched the true essence of the great Tao after receiving the baptism of the great Tao's origin. However, his great Tao of heaven was obviously superior to the great Tao of time. One was a boundless ocean, while the other was merely a river. No matter how turbulent the river was, it couldn't shake the ocean. Instead, it was swallowed and contained by the ocean. Boom! Zhouxi's divine might was shattered layer by layer. The shackles around him instantly disappeared. His body staggered and his face turned pale. So you're cultivating the supreme great Tao of heaven and can derive yin and yang. No wonder Daozu's great tribulation can draw out the 9 gates of the great Tao's origin. Zhouxi wasn't surprised and exclaimed loudly, "I wonder if I have the strength to kill you now?" Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and looked at Zhouxi. "You're just a Daozu who has just ascended. Even if you're cultivating the supreme great Tao of heaven, how much true essence can you grasp? You want to suppress me? What a big joke." Zhouxi sneered disdainfully and stared at Su Fang. The strange phenomenon of the passage of time flashed in his eyes. Suddenly light flashed in the eyes of the queen, instantly enveloping Su Fang and trapping him within. The great Tao of the great Tao caused Su Fang's life to rapidly slip away. In a short moment, it felt like countless years had passed. His life went from the peak to death. Boom! Tower! The phantom of a pagoda emerged from Su Fang's body and erupted with 6 great divine might. It contained the great Tao of heaven and earth's natural reincarnation and evolution. It couldn't break Zhouxi's great Tao of time, and Zhouxi couldn't do anything to Su Fang. At this time, Su Fang looked at Zhouxi and smiled. He waved his hand and grabbed at Zhouxi. In an instant, Zhouxi felt that he was trapped in misfortune and calamity. The great Tao of heaven that he couldn't escape from was crazily devouring his luck. How can a human cultivator who has just ascended grasp so many great Tao of heaven and earth? Zhouxi exclaimed in disbelief. Only now did he realize that something was wrong. Generally speaking, after ascending to Daozu, the number of avatars one had and the number of great Tao of heaven and earth would depend on how many great Tao of heaven and earth one could comprehend after being baptized by the great Tao of heaven. Then, one could create a powerful divine ability from the great Tao of heaven and earth. This was the ability of a Daozu expert. Su Fang had just ascended to Daozu, but he was already able to use the 3 great Tao of heaven and earth, yin-yang, nature, and fate. Although they weren't divine abilities, each of them was extraordinary. How could Zhouxi not be shocked? Humph! Human cultivator, why should I fight to the death with you? I only need to inform the Duke of your whereabouts. Experts will come and suppress you. Let's see how you can defy the heavens then. Zhouxi spread his hands apart. Hundreds of thousands of thoughts turned into a long river of time. He broke free from the shackles of the tribulation and was about to escape. Who knew an ethereal divine might descended with a rumble, shackling Zeus' temple. The divine might contained a great Tao of heaven that couldn't be defied. It made Zhou Si's Tao heart tremble. His will couldn't help but submit to the supreme divine might of fate. The long river of time began to shatter. Chi, chi, chi. Blood vines as thick as an arm shot out from Su Fang's body, as if they were condensed from black blood. They intertwined around Zeus Si, sealing off space and time, and tightly binding his body. Then, the will of the great Tao of heaven that couldn't be defied took the opportunity to break Zhou Si's Tao heart. His will instantly collapsed. He didn't expect, Zhou Si never expected that he would be shackled by Su Fang, a newly ascended Daozu. His eyes were filled with surprise and fear. Su Fang smiled. Expert of the Tensei people, do I have the qualifications to suppress you now? Zhou Si had no choice but to grit his teeth and admit, I didn't expect that the human race would have someone as powerful as you. No wonder you could compete with young Duke Zhou Nua for the Luai's original realm. Zhou Nua? You were sent by Zhou Nua. Su Fang's eyes instantly froze. Zhou Si snorted. It's good that you understand. It's not just me. His Highness has led a large group of our race's experts to the human world to kill you and eliminate future trouble for him. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. I didn't expect Zhou Nua to be so despicable. Isn't he afraid of breaking his oath and being obliterated by the Luai's original realm's realm spirit? Zhou Si's arrogance returned. His Highness was the one who did this. His Highness doesn't know anything about it. Su Fang, you'd best obediently release me. Otherwise, the Tensei people will obliterate the human race. There will no longer be a human race in the primal chaos. Su Fang. Zhou Si fell silent. Su Fang had thought that the Tensei people wouldn't do anything to him or the human race after Zhou Nua swore an oath in the Luai's original realm. He thought. But the thing he was most worried about still happened. Heavens, the Aeon race was one of the higher races of the primal chaos. The divine master of 10 directions hadn't been dealt with yet, and now they'd attracted the Tensei people. It was impossible for Su Fang not to be afraid. Seeing Su Fang's silence, Zhou Si smiled smugly. Su Fang, as long as you release me, there's still room for redemption. But if you dare touch a hair on my head, you'll become an enemy of the Tensei people. There's no turning back. The human race can only wait to be annihilated. If I let you go, will the Tensei people let me go? Su Fang. Zhou Si was stunned by Zhou Si's words. Zhou Nua and I fought over the Luai's original realm. Sooner or later, he'll lose his life. When that happens, he won't be able to escape the revenge of the Tensei people. So why should I let you go now? If you dare kill me now, the human race will be annihilated. I won't kill you for now, but I'll shackle you and turn you into a bloody pig. A bloody pig? Zhou Si had a bad premonition. Su Fang smiled wickedly. Being dominated by the evil corpse, he immediately activated the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine and penetrated Zhou Si's defenses. Then, Su Fang used the soul power of the longevity lamp to shackle Zhou Si's soul. Whoosh! The blood vine coiled and sucked Zhou Si into Su Fang's space. 1. Chapter 32:14. Su Fang couldn't feel happy about suppressing a powerful Daozu from the Tensei people. Naturally, it was because the Tensei people had gone to the human world. I didn't expect Zhou Nua's father to go to the human world. We're in big trouble now. But with Master here, there shouldn't be any problems in the short term. Su Fang frowned, but his heart remained calm. The improvement in the level of his Tao heart allowed him to maintain an unperturbed state when facing any danger or calamity. Then, his body rapidly turned into nothingness, as if merging with the ethereal heavenly Tao and disappearing from the chaos. Tao ancestral experts had already grasped the ultimate truth of the heavenly Tao. Time, space, and layers of shackles weakened Daozu expert. In the past, Su Fang needed thousands of years to return to the human world. Now, he only needed a few decades. About 30 years. Su Fang broke through the void outside the eastern profound heavenly pavilion. He projected his senses and instantly enveloped the entire eastern profound heavenly pavilion. Daozu expert's senses had become incredibly powerful. With the help of the heavenly Tao, he could sense most of the eastern profound divine region with a thought. Not as expected, Su Fang was rather surprised. The interior of the eastern profound heavenly pavilion was calm. It hadn't changed much from before he left. It didn't seem like a powerful enemy had arrived. Su Fang, Tao Ancestor Xian sent a divine will over. Since you've returned, it seems that you've completed the test of the Luai's origin realm's second heaven. Master can finally rest assured. You've actually ascended to Daozu. In the next moment, Dongxian Daozu's thought clone flashed out and looked at Su Fang, his eyes filled with shock and relief. Su Fang. Fang smiled awkwardly and didn't explain anything. He hurriedly informed Dongxian Daozu about the Tensei people's experts entering the human world. Lei Su Fang played down the matter of the Luai's origin realm, the Daozu tribulation, and suppressing the Tensei people's expert Zhu Si. A few years ago, there was an expert who sensed the eastern profound heaven pavilion, but his sensing power only lasted for a brief moment before disappearing. At that time, I found it strange. I didn't expect it to be an expert from the Tensei people. When Dongxian Daozu heard Su Fang's words, he also realized the seriousness of the matter. Master, please contact the other human Daozu and find traces of the Tensei people. I have just advanced and need to stabilize my realm. Su Fang had just broken through, and as soon as he finished his breakthrough, he had fought against the eternal race's Zhu Si. This had made his realm unstable, and he needed to stabilize it as soon as possible. Only then would he have the strength to fight against the eternal race's expert. At this time, you have already advanced to Daozu. The Migres star's immortal's abode is already unsuitable for your cultivation. Come directly to Master's immortal's abode. As for the other matters, Master will naturally arrange them. Dongxian Daozu nodded at Su Fang. Afterwards, the figure formed by his thoughts became a ray of divine light that dissipated. Su He entered the inner space of Heaven Pavilion. After sensing for a while, he found that everything on the Migres star was still calm. He did not disturb the others. He only informed Saint Sovereign Xie and then went straight into the depths of the starry sky, entering the secret realm where Dongxian Daozu cultivated. Inside, under the guidance of Dongxian Daozu, Su Fang came to the interior of the immortal's abode and entered a vast array formed by countless stars. Master's abode is more than 10 times more powerful than the one on the Migres star. Su Fang sensed that in the vast array of stars, not only was the flow of time 1,000 times different from the outside world, but he could also clearly sense the ethereal heavenly way. Only Daozu experts could cultivate in such a sacred place. Not to mention ordinary cultivators, even Dao saints would not be able to withstand the difference in the flow of time. Su Fang sat cross-legged in the array. Soon, his state of mind became as calm as an ancient well. Peel. Out of consciousness, he sensed the inside and outside of his body. After ascending to Daozu, he did not have time to carefully sense the changes brought about by the ascension. After sensing for a while, Su Fang smiled slightly. His eyes were filled with joy. Receive the baptism of the origin of the heavenly Tao, and the baptism of the origin of the Tao. After shattering the 9 gates of the origin of the Tao, Su Fang's physical body, Tao Palace, Tao Heart, and origin of the Tao had undergone a tremendous transformation. The Tao Palace became even more vast and boundless. It was as vast and boundless as the chaotic void. It seemed empty, but in fact it encompassed everything. In the center of the Tao Palace floated a pure origin aura. It was the primordial aura. Here, not only did the primordial aura become purer, its area also became more astonishing, occupying 1/3 of the Tao Palace. The transformation of the Dharma body was even more shocking. 9. The Dharma body emitted a deep Tao aura and the ultimate truth of different heavenly ways. It was like the embodiment of the heavenly ways. Daozu experts grasped the true meaning of the heavenly ways. Their divine powers contained the ultimate truth of the heavenly ways. They were above the laws and were the foundation and source of the laws. Naturally, their power was not something that Tao saints could compare to. For example, if an extremely ordinary sentence contained the ultimate truth, it would be better than thousands of words and could not be refuted. Only the ultimate truth was unchanging and eternal. By the same logic, Daozu experts' divine powers contained the ultimate truth and the will of the heavenly ways. Compared to cultivators below the Daozu level, just a sentence or a look was a peerless divine ability. When Su Fang was at the Tao Saint level, he could kill Daozu experts because he had various extraordinary abilities, treasures, and monsters like the heavenly swallowing insect and the mermaid. Here, when he ascended to the Daozu level, even he himself could not imagine how strong he would be. I finally understand what the Thunder Lake original realm spirit said. My next cultivation should be to constantly ponder over the various heavenly ways that I have grasped. Then, I will ponder over the ultimate truth of the heavenly ways that belong to me. I can abandon all the divine powers that I have cultivated in the past. I can even forget all of them. Also, I have to sever the 3 corpses and raise my Tao heart to the level of great indifference. Only then can I achieve eternal immortality. After ascending to the Daozu level, Su Fang had a clearer direction for his future cultivation. Although he was still a distance away from the pinnacle of the heavenly ways, he could already see the pinnacle of the heavenly ways very clearly. His body also underwent another transformation. Here Su Fang's physical body had already surpassed the limits of the human race and reached the level of a high-level life form, where the heavenly blood king vine had also completely evolved into a mature state along with Su Fang's transformation. Here, if she encountered the heaven-piercing blood king vine's main body again, even if she returned to her peak state, she would not be able to escape Su Fang's suppression. Here, look at his Tao heart. His Tao heart had become simple and unadorned, but it exuded an aura of eternal immortality and coexistence with heaven and earth. Origin. Here, Su Fang used the opportunity of the baptism of the Tao origin to quickly merge with the immortal heavenly heart stone and finally cultivate an immortal Tao heart. Cultivate with an immortal Tao heart and a Tao immortal, Su Fang now had a chance to surpass the limits of the human race and reach heights never reached by the human race. He would become an eternal immortal. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had the resources to ascend to the immortal realm. I wonder when the Tensei people will arrive. I have to stabilize my cultivation as soon as possible. Only then will I have the strength to fight against the Tensei people. It would be best if those Tensei people know when to advance and when to retreat. Su Fang began to settle down. He swallowed pills and spiritual items to replenish the huge expenditure from ascending to the Daozu level. Who knew, after swallowing thousands of king-grade pills and countless spiritual items, Su Fang helplessly discovered that the pills refined by the human race and the spiritual items born in the human world were of little use to his cultivation. No wonder the Divine Lord of 10 Directions gathered all the resources of the human race to help him ascend to the immortal realm. Even with the best resources of the human race, it would still be difficult to cultivate an immortal realm expert. Su Fang couldn't help but sigh helplessly. Fortunately, he had just suppressed a powerful Daozu from the Tensei people. This person had a high status among the Tensei people, and his cultivation was also extraordinary. Naturally, he had a lot of high-grade resources on him, and a lot of them at that. Now, all of them had gone to Su Fang. There were many rune talismans and treasures in C's storage ring, including 3 one-instant eternal talismans. When talismans were naturally useful to Su Fang, but they were useless to the Xian Bao. The Xian Bao of an ancestral realm expert was almost all the natal Xian Bao that had been cultivated for countless years. Su Fang had no use for it. The Tensei people lived up to their name as the upper race among the chaotic races. Although the pills they refined were king-grade, the materials used to refine them and the level of refining them were far beyond the reach of the human race. Naturally, the medicinal power of the pills was also extraordinary. Su Fang wantonly swallowed pills and began to rapidly fill the emptiness caused by his ascension. Tong He continued to cultivate the Jiuxuan Wuji Sutra, pondering over the information he had gained from the Tao Source baptism and comprehended the heavenly Tao. Su Fang cultivated in Dongxian Daozu's cave abode. Before he knew it, 1,000,000 years had passed. The cultivation of an ancestral realm expert was often measured in epochs. A mere 1,000,000 years was nothing. Su Fang had only just filled the emptiness caused by his ascension. He was still far from the Daozu's normal state. From the heavenly Tao, Su Fang had a deep understanding and tried to create his own unique, remarkable power. Su Fang spent 1,000,000 years in the cave abode, but only 1,000 years had passed in the outside world. East Dongxuan Daozu's cultivation mystic realm was so extraordinary. No, it was not without its drawbacks. The time that passed in the chronoformation would also cause the cultivator to lose their lifespan. Moreover, they could not stay in the chronoformation for too long. After all, the heavenly Tao had been changed in the chronoformation. It had a significant impact on cultivation, especially on comprehending the heavenly Tao. For example, if nothing unexpected happened, Su Fang would probably continue to settle down until the Luai's original realm opened again 1,000,000 years later. This day, the entire internal space of Dongxian Pavilion shook. Tong then, a divine power from the Chrono Great Tao seeped into the internal space from the outside, instantly engulfing the entire heavenly pavilion. Wherever the divine power went, the heavenly pavilion cultivators and other life forms instantly lost 1,000,000 years of their lifespan. It was as if 1,000,000 years had passed in an instant. Tensei people, how dare you? Chapter 32:15. Who would have thought that the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion would be attacked by an expert? That attack contained the principles of the great Tao of time. It was obvious that it came from the Tensei people. Moreover, it was a top Daozu expert. A voice filled with disdain traveled from outside the pavilion into the inner space. Dongxian Daozu, your strength is not bad. You should be the strongest expert of the human race now, right? In front of the supreme Tensei people, you are still an ant. Dongxian Daozu's angry rebuke rang out. Why are the Tensei people attacking my Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion? Why? Go and ask Su Fang. He disguised himself as the heavenly blood royal vine, killed our experts, and stole our young king's treasure. How can the dignity of our race be challenged by an ant of the human race? It would not be wrong for the Tensei people to destroy the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion for such a heinous crime. I did not come here to destroy the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion. I came here to give you an ultimatum. 100 years later, hand over Su Fang obediently. Otherwise, you will end up like the Northern Profound Divine Region. Just as his arrogant voice fell, boom, east the doors of the Profound Heaven Pavilion collapsed. 100 years later, I want to see Su Fang kneel in front of the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion and beg for forgiveness. Otherwise, the Tensei people will destroy the entire human race. The voices of the Tensei people gradually faded away. In the end, there was no more sound. The Tensei people are actually so arrogant and despotic when they come to kill us at this time. Su Fang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. Then, they became indifferent. This Dongxian Daozu transmitted his consciousness. Master has his own plans. Cultivate in peace. Don't worry. Tensei people, don't force me to kill. Su Fang smiled indifferently and continued to settle down in the cave abode of time. Not long after, news that shocked the human world spread. North. Mystic divine realm had been conquered by the 12 races of Shi Xian. North Xiandaozu had fled with heavy injuries. What was even more shocking was that the 12 races, with the help of the Tensei people, had taken less than 100 years to conquer the northern profound divine realm. The situation this time was even more serious than the destruction of the south profound and western profound divine realms. For a time, the entire human world fell into panic and despair. 50 years later, the Daozu experts of the human race had gathered at the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion. Some Daozu of the human race were shocked and terrified by the strength of the Tensei people and the 12 races when they learned that the Northern Profound Divine region had been destroyed at such a shocking speed. At first, many human Daozu either vaguely rejected or directly rejected Dongxian Daozu's invitation. Obviously, they were afraid. In a fit of anger, Daozu revealed his domineering side, announcing that anyone who did not come would be considered a traitor to the human race, and he would personally come to suppress them. During the Battle of the Western Profound Mountain, Dongxian Daozu had severely injured a peak expert of the three-eyed black devil race. Such strength was already at the peak of the human world. At this place when Dongxian Daozu was angry, the human Daozu who had been rejecting the invitation had no choice but to gather at the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion to discuss how to deal with the Tensei people and the 12 races. Inside the Profound Daozu's secret realm, a total of 15 Daozu experts of the human race were gathered in a space created by a star formation. Everyone, the only thing we can do now is to work together and fight the Tensei people and the 12 races to the death. Otherwise, the human race will not be able to escape destruction before the 10 Directions Divine Masters break through the seal. Dongxian Daozu said in a low voice. Everyone. Many Daozu experts were like clay statues. For a long time they did not say a word, and the atmosphere was heavy and oppressive. Mother Dark Daozu snorted and said, "The foreign races have not arrived yet, and you are already scared out of your wits?" Haotian Daozu from the Haotian Divine Realm said helplessly, "Mother Dark Daozu, it is not that we are scared out of our wits. It is just that the foreign races are so strong that it is already difficult for us to deal with the 12 races. Now that the Tensei people have arrived, even if the human race goes all out, it will be like throwing an egg against a rock. The Tensei people are not something that the human race can fight against. Too strong. With my strength, I am like a weak chicken in front of that Tensei people expert. I cannot even withstand a single blow. If I did not self-destruct one of my avatars, I would have already died." The one who spoke was an old man with a weak aura. He was Beixian Daozu, who had just escaped from the hands of the foreign race experts not long ago. Hong Beixian Daozu smiled bitterly and sighed. The human race will be destroyed by the 10 Directions Divine Master sooner or later. Now, it is just a few million years earlier. In order to preserve the human race, it is better for us to escape to the depths of the primal chaos. There, we will be able to find a foothold there. It is much better than staying in the Jiuxuan Divine Realm and getting killed. A Daozu expert retorted. Even if we escape to the depths of the primal chaos, we will end up like the 5 great divine races in the central profound divine realm. We will end up as slaves of the foreign races. Without strength, we will be destroyed no matter where we go. Many Daozu experts fell into silence. Suddenly the Daozu expert said, "The Tensei people are a higher race in the primal chaos. They originally had nothing to do with the human race. Since they are a higher race, they will not attack the human race. Now, the Tensei people are enraged because of Su Fang. Why don't we hand Su Fang over to the Tensei people to quell their anger? The Tensei people will naturally not make things difficult for the human race. When the time comes, the 12 races will no longer be a threat to us." This Daozu expert was none other than Chutian Daozu from the Chutian divine realm. He wasn't targeting Su Fang. Instead, he spoke the thoughts of many Daozu experts. Everyone. Many Daozu experts were moved. They were clearly moved by Daozu's words. A layer of frost appeared on Daozu's face. Su Fang has contributed greatly to the human race. This seat will not speak of it any further. Now that a powerful enemy has arrived, you plan to abandon him? Hee, what a cold-blooded and heartless man. Aren't you afraid that the entire human race will be bitterly disappointed? Shameless to the extreme. Mother Daozu's voice was filled with murderous intent. His cold gaze swept past the numerous Dao ancestors before finally landing on Dao ancestor Qi Tian. He said with a murderous look, "If anyone else has such thoughts, I'll kill him first and then fight the experts of the cosmic race to the death." Qi Tian said. Chutian Daozu snorted. "The two of you can't expect us and the entire human race to die, right?" Mother Daozu snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. Everyone. Daozu experts fell silent again. Dongxian Daozu suddenly spoke. "Everyone, since things have come to this point, this seat will not hide anything. Su Fang has offended the Tensei people because he obtained a supreme treasure that is related to the future of the human race." At this moment, a figure passed through the array formation. It was Su Fang. Dongxian Daozu and Mother Daozu cupped their fists. Su Fang said, "Master, there is no point in talking too much. When the Tensei people's experts arrive in 50 years, I, Su Fang, will stop them alone. Don't forget that I have a grand mist heavenly treasure. What can the Tensei people do?" Daozu sighed pessimistically. "Even if you have the ability to kill Daozu with the longevity lamp, you won't have the chance to activate it in front of the Tensei people's experts." Su Fang smiled. "Not necessarily. 100 years ago, I suppressed a Daozu of the Tensei people. It wasn't an ordinary Daozu." "You? The powerful Daozu that suppressed the Tensei people?" Daozu sneered. The other Daozu also fell silent. They didn't believe Su Fang's words. Su Fang, your aura." Daozu. Daozu was stunned when she sensed Su Fang's aura. Then, her expression changed. Her aura Daozu experts looked at Su Fang. At first, they were surprised. Then, they were shocked. His speed of improvement was heaven-defying. While they were shocked, a glimmer of hope ignited in everyone's hearts. When Su Fang was still a Daozu, he could threaten the Tensei people with the longevity lamp. Now that he was a Daozu expert, he might be able to fight against the 12 races and the Tensei people with the longevity lamp. Daozu said resentfully, "It's useless. Even if we kill all the Tensei people, more Tensei people will invade the human world. Even if the human race has undying existences, it will be difficult to stop the Tensei people." Su Fang looked at Daozu and said indifferently, "Daozu, are you going to hand me over to the Tensei people in exchange for the survival of the human race? Only then will you be at ease?" Ancestor Tian Dao smiled embarrassedly. Although he did not speak, the meaning in his expression could not be more obvious. Most of the other Daozu elites had the same idea. "I've just become a Daozu. You all probably think that I, Su Fang, am a weak chicken that you can crush as you please. You want to abandon me like a chess piece, right?" Su Fang said coldly, his voice full of mockery. Qi Daozu said, "Su Fang, I know you're strong, but this time, you're not facing a Daozu of the human race or a Daozu of the 12 races. You're facing a peerless elite from the Tensei people. No matter how strong you are, can you fight against the Tensei people?" Daozu also said, "We're not thinking this out of selfishness. We're thinking this for the sake of the human race." For the sake of the human race? What a pretentious excuse. Su Fang displayed a domineering aura. He waved his hand and the Tensei people's elite, Zeus C, rolled out of his palm. Everyone looked at the shackled Zeus C and felt his aura. They were all shocked. Such a powerful Daozu was comparable to the human race and the 12 races Daozu, but he was suppressed by Su Fang. It was obvious how strong Su Fang was. It was far beyond their imagination. Hongdaozu Tian, Qi Tian, and the others looked at Su Fang. Their eyes were full of fear and their hearts were full of respect. The Tensei people are coming for me, Su Fang. I don't need you to die. I will take care of them myself. So what if I die for the sake of the human race? However, Su Fang will say this first. If anyone still wants to use me as cannon fodder, Su Fang is not a soft-hearted person. I can kill the Daozu of the Yi and Hu people. I can kill the Tensei people and the 12 races Daozu. Do you think I can't kill you? So what if I kill a few more human Daozu? Su Fang said. As soon as the clanging sound rang out, a powerful will that was as strong as the heavenly Tao erupted. It suppressed Tao ancestor Qi Tian, Tao ancestor Hong Tian, and the other experts to the point that their Tao hearts trembled and their bodies trembled. Stay in Heaven Pavilion. In 50 years, come with me to face the Tensei people. Whoever dares to leave Heaven Pavilion will be killed. Fang's murderous voice attacked the Daozu's Tao hearts. They suddenly felt as if they were on the brink of death. Su Fang completely controlled their life and death. His will could suppress them,